All right. Hello, friends, to another edition of our deconditioning series. We are so excited to have you all today. So, we have a very, very special guest, and this guest is actually someone that our dear co host Moni suggested. So, it's even more exciting. So, I will let you know more about our lovely guest Natalie and all the magical things she can do for your deconditioning journey. But before that, we have our transit weather brought to you by our lovely co-hosts Danny and Moni, who's going to illuminate what's happening in the skies and therefore your charts for this week. So prepare to have all the insights, and I'm just so excited for you to dive right in. So, with that, tag a team out.
Good. She's so good at that.
I know, I love Moana. She's so much fun.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And I'm still getting used to being lovely. You know what I mean? I'm lovely co-host. My name comes out first. You should say your name first. Yeah,
Lovely Moni and our debonair
yeah.
Danny.
Oh, yeah, that was a good one. I like it.
We could call you debonair. That I'll allow it.
Oh, what's on deck? What do we
uh,
got?
yeah, this week we have the sun in gate 32 and the earth in gate 42.
Mm, duration and expansion.
Yeah, it's interesting. I love watching it like move around the wheel and like just like as we continue on the journey. So for everyone watching at home, we have our walk around the wheel that we're going through, and it's going counterclockwise with the sun and the earth that we're following in that progression. The sun is in the gate 32, which is continuity, and the earth is in 42, which is this increase, this growth, completion.
Moni, can I ask you a question? Where did we start in this wheel on this
Oh, it was
process?
Sleeping Phoenix in May. It was like 2034 time. That was our first week.
No kidding.
Mhm.
20 where's oh no, it was okay, right after 8. All right.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, it's been really fun as I've been like continuing to like play
Look
with
at
these
how much
things.
motion, dude. We've gone pretty far. This is good.
Yeah, it's neat. I love just like going around through it and like continuing because it's like I find with so much of the human design, it's like you get little bits of it repeatedly and repeatedly and repeatedly, and different things stick at different times that maybe today you're not going to get it, but then we're going to mention it in like 3, 4, 5 months, and then something
That's how
clicks
it
in.
goes. Yeah, totally. That is how it goes. So, continuity and increase.
Yeah. So the sun in gate 32, duration, continuity, as you're saying. The only thing that endures is change. It's a splenic gate and it's tribal circuitry, specifically part of the ego circuit. And it links up with gate 54, which is this energy of ambition or drive. And the 32, 54 together make the channel of transformation. And so gate 32 is a constant evaluation as an instinctive recognition of what can and cannot be transformed. The underlying fear of failure, all splenic gates have some kind of fear associated with them. So for gate 32, it's this fear of failure. And the spleen's contribution to the material continuity of the tribe with a gift of recognizing who has the skills or education to move up in the world. It uses influence to bring the attention to those in positions of authority.
It's incredibly influential. I often wonder how loud does 32 speak in its tribal setting, because it's really got the juice on what to do and what not to do as it relates to holding together this notion of its companion on the other side. I keep calling it expansion. I've always called it that, but it is growth, this expansive type of growth,
Mhm.
um, which is the opposite of what this gate would like. It's deeply conservative, is the thing.
Oh, that's
This is a
interesting.
week when people will potentially be feeling deeply conservative about what they will and won't risk, because that duration is to traverse the duration of a life. And in a tribe, the tribal life goes even farther than the life of any one. It goes on to what? The whole progeny and on through the posterity of the ages if they last. And that's what it's looking for. It understands there's change, but it sure would like it if there wasn't. you know.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So,
That makes sense.
but
Yeah,
the
that
thing is, it knows it can't go without the change. It's connected intrinsically to 54 ambition, an adrenal fuel, which is the opposite of what duration necessarily asks for it. and and then this channel of transformation, the duration and the conservativeness is regarding, will it fail at transforming or not when needed? So it's this bit, that's what I'm saying, sort of at the tip of the spear as it relates to the awareness of how the tribe doesn't fail. That's how I would call this gate.
It's really, really interesting. I love getting more understanding of this. I have the gate 54, I have 54.4, and it's like pure change, and it's this root center drive for change, and it's
The
hanging. So
alpha
I'm
and
just,
the omega, right?
yeah, exactly. Which I find like super fascinating. But yeah, it's like this pure adrenal drive, this ambition. And then the 32, it's like, okay, what does that mean? So it's receiving this adrenaline pulse, it's receiving this drive and ambition. It's like, cool, cool, cool. Okay, we're going for the continuity and the duration and the long term survival of the tribe. So I'm going to see your ambition. I'm going to see your desire for something new and transformation, and what can be transformed, what cannot be, like what has value in that way. That's
And
very
think
interesting.
Yeah, and another thing that fuels its fear, pardon the pun, is the fact that once it comes into symbiosis with 54, and you are now having a whole channel, which is obviously, greater than the sum of its parts, it's the fear of dancing with the 54 devil, because
Okay. Yeah, yeah,
50
yeah.
54 says, "Well, just move over. I'm trying to claw my way up. I want to move this thing along. I'm driven." It's a design of being driven. And people I know with this channel, they're driven, they're driven, they're driven, they're driven. And it's like, come on, I want to take a nap already or something, you know.
I know, we gotta go. Let's do the thing.
Yeah, so that is part of its fear. Its fear is an intelligence. This has got to be one of the more intuitively intelligent gathering instinctual gates. I shouldn't even say intuitive. It's instinct, the stream of instinct, and it's the instinct to basically see what might be coming down the pike, or to be blinded in the absence of seeing. And
Mm.
either way, the spleen gets the infamous hit sooner or later. I knew it, So 32 is like the saddest I knew it of all the splenic gates, I would say, because it's watching failure happen.
Mm.
So I'm just saying routinely it would be
Especially in
like,
that, yeah, that tribal continuity kind of way of just like the ongoing nature of the tribe. That must be
mhm,
heartbreaking.
yep,
Fascinating. All right, onward to gate 42.
yep.
All right.
42
So,
acts a lot like 54 in a way. It's not quite driven, but it's loaded with juice and it's just
oh,
trying to get somewhere.
that's interesting. Okay,
Yep.
let's dive in. So, gate 42 is this energy of increase and growth. It says that the expansion of resources, which maximizes the development of potential. So it's a sacral gate. It's individual circuitry, which you think empowerment, and specifically the sensing circuit. It links up with gate 53, which is development, and the 5342 is this channel of maturation. In gate 42, it's the tenacity to stay with a cycle in order to maximize its inherent potential, generating growth and balancing development by using humanity's collected experiences to create a foundation for its future progress. To focus on what it takes to energetically complete a cycle or process, and weak or insufficiently supported beginnings make you nervous and uncomfortable.
Mm. Yeah, there's a lot of that because it's a format gate, so it's responsible for energizing the entire circuitry that way. So the
Mm.
entire abstract sensing, emotional, tribal circuitry is energized by this channel when it's a full channel. So 42 is this expansiveness, and it's I love this word tenacity because 54 is loaded with its own version of tenacity. And
Mm.
they're trying to get somewhere. The collective might as well be this 42 collective gate might as well be driven in a way to get to the collective to share all of this and find out what does it mean, right? To go through the experience. Whereas 54's ambition is more uniquely individual in that way, as because it's for its own tribe only and not for the greater collective. So these two things have to talk to each other. The expansiveness, which won't shut the F up, technically, because it's got to share, along with the exact opposite of that. The cautious continuity, needing continuity in a way that is conservative.
Oh,
That starts
interesting.
it starts. Again, it's got the awareness to surf any changing wave. So the changes come to the tribe, and 32 is alert to all of that, just like 44 is. Um, but it's not the crazy expansiveness, although it could ride that expansiveness. So I guess what this says is you put 42 and 32 together, and it's a design to keep pushing expansiveness with the incredible intelligence of the spleen as a throttle to it all.
Oh,
Yeah, a braking mechanism too.
like
That's
again, the balance and harmony. Right before the show, Natalie and I were just talking about that of bringing things into harmony. And so
right,
that
right,
relationship between the polarity of the 32 and the 42, even showing that expression of harmony. And that's the thing, you don't necessarily want things to be balanced because nothing is ever going to be 50%, 50%. You're going
right,
to want it
right.
in a nice harmony where they can properly flow together.
Very little is balanced if you think about it. You gotta try real hard to get 2 exact same things on a fulcrum the same distance apart to make it actually balance.
Yeah, that's a
The
good point.
norm is not quite balanced. Well, even our eyes aren't exactly identical on either side. The
Yeah.
norm is not quite balanced. It's
Yeah.
slightly askew.
And they need to just be in
Just like
harmony.
the angles, you got X, you got 5 or 6, 7 right angles, 5, uh, 4 left angles, and 1
Mm,
juxt, so uh, we're not really supposed to be balanced, and so this balances its own self out. It
it
harmonizes, right?
harmonizes it. Yeah, I love that. I love that conversation.
Sacral fuel, baby. That's what this is. It's not aware. It's not aware. So 32 would be like the parent to 42 and sometimes quite annoyed with it, I bet, if you want to put it to anthropomorphize it that way.
No, that's a really cool way to like see those two in conversation with one another. The 42 is just going to keep going and going and going and increasing and expanding and completing and getting to the end of that cycle. And that 32 is like, okay, I see your transformation and your ambition. And here's how we're going to actually funnel it into something that's like useful and has continuity to it. Because just growth in and of itself, you might be able to keep going or you might be able to finish something in that collective nature, but relating it to the 32 and that tribal nature is like we want, something that's going
That's
to be continuing and
That's
ongoing.
a serious sifting mechanism, a lens, a prism. 32 is going to sharpen up whatever. 42 doesn't need to necessarily sharpen up, but it does need to complete the thing. That's what the whole maturation process is about. It is about coming to completion, very much is the gate of that,
Hmm.
coming to completion. And that it'll have in common with 32. But yeah, as oppositions on the wheel. What is this? This is the cross of the Maya, right?
Yeah, that's gonna be the first one. Yeah, so let's just
Oh,
jump right to that.
yep.
Yeah,
That's
so
funny.
as you just said, right, we start with the cross of the Maya, and this is so people who are born this week, people whose inner knowing and use of detail guide their ability to properly evaluate and inspire material development, maturation, and expansion.
Mm, I love that. So the Maya people, when I have a term for the Maya people, they float across the Maya. They surf the Maya. The Maya is the all of us. We constitute the Maya in this way. Technically, everything does. The birds, the bees, and everything constitute the totality of the Maya. But most of what's important to us is the other of us in it. And so the people on the cross of the Maya tend to float the social arena, even if they're reclusive for whatever reason. They tend to float amongst all the people, and the knowing and the use of the detail and the 62 and the 61 that are on the other side does guide their ability. And it's this evaluation that helps inspire mental development in others. So this person would be bringing expansive mental development to others. This week, watch out for expansiveness. Watch out for yourself wanting to go a little too far and then suddenly being afraid because you went too far. And neither one of them will be true. You know, Ponder that for a moment. And now's the time. We got off of being brave last week, as I recall, in the now. And so take some of that with you. Take some of that with you. We're living in a pretty tame world. Expand whatever it is that you feel you need to move into, because by now you've been having the urge to, with this thing holding you back that you might not even recognize what it is. That's 32. It's doing its job. It's saying, slow down, cowboy. You know, slow your roll, cowboy.
I feel like that flows perfectly into the next cross, which is the juxtaposition cross of conservation.
Oh,
Sure,
that's too
wary.
funny.
I know,
Yeah,
right? I was like, I think this
yeah.
is too perfect. Wary risk takers guided by the value of continuity or duration, who conserve our resources to ensure survival of future generations.
Oh, and they're fixed on it because that's the fourth
Yeah,
line.
4-1. That'll be the 4-1.
Yes, put them in charge of the thing that is that because they're just fixed on it. They'll go down with the ship. They can't help it. Incredibly watching for that thing. And I imagine a little bit jumpy sometimes if they don't know their design because that fourth line will be fixed on it and their mind will grab that and constantly say stuff like, you be afraid constantly.
Oh yeah, I mean, if you're like concerned about like the continuation, the conservation of
Hmm.
resources and survival of future generations, it's gonna be like, yeah, like you said, slow your roll, cowboy.
Hmm.
I feel like then that goes in nicely into the left angle cross of limitation. And these are people who see impermanence as limitation, as a pressure, such as on in business or industry to value products based on their practicality and their ability to withstand the test of time.
And so that would have the 61 and the 62 would move into what's after
So
62? It's
for the conservation or for limitation?
limit either one.
Oh,
Uh,
56 and 60. I didn't realize it was the same. I just learned a thing.
yeah.
That's neat.
So it's going to
56 and
move.
60.
It's moving into. So it's going to start up with the cross of laws.
Hmm.
That's right. So okay, yeah, cool. So that makes sense. No, not the top, not the 42, 32, 42, not that one. The 61. What's right after 61 on the wheel? I mean, I almost have it in
Yeah,
my
because
mind.
the cross of Maya is the 32, 42, 62, 61, and then conservation then moves it to 56, 60, and then limitation is 56, 60 as well.
Right. And so, um, oh yeah, so the 5660, sorry, my bad. Um,
It's fine.
that
It's a
means
lot of numbers to process
so
and
it does,
remember.
yeah. So it moves into the laws. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah,
I see exactly what I
yeah,
was
you're
going
right.
on. Yeah. So yeah, it moves into the cross of the laws. So this is amazing. These people seeking that are afraid of impermanence, they're not really afraid of it. They're meant to look out over all of it. It's a left angle cross. So really and truly, the duration and the continuity and this tribal instinct to basically protect the process. That's what these guys do. They're protecting the process. In fact, I would say this gate protects the process more than anything, except maybe gate 50. Um, and in the tribe, that is, and that protection of the process will see impermanence as a limitation. But the thing is, so how do we transcend our limitations? We accept them, right? It's like nature. How do you get along with nature? You obey her,
Hmm.
and then that that will be that. And so this is just a matter of this based on their practicality, wicked practical, conservative practical, its ability to withstand the test of time, but only as themselves. As not themselves, they won't withstand the test of time. This thing will keep them jumpy, busy, and making mental decisions quickly, spontaneously, potentially if they're not aware of what's going on with all of this. Yep.
Yeah.
So the Maya people ultimately go full circle around this juxtaposition to the left angle. So after you're done floating the people through the people, a person of the Maya, one way or another, it's time to make the law. So get to know the people, make the law. That's what the wheel says.
Hmm. And see like conservation and limitation of like, hey, we're looking for continuity and duration. We're going to see that, hey, impermanence and as a limitation. And how do you work with that? Okay, this is how we work at that. Not how this is how we're going to codify the laws. That's very interesting.
Yes, and now it's time to, and it actually makes sense to codify the laws that way. And by the way, the impermanence is also what the spleen is most afraid of in the first place as a totality, death. In that way, it's all impermanent. And I guess that's a bit of a limitation if you feel like looking at it that way. But, I used to say death and taxes, but now it's just death. But yeah, so
Yeah. But you need the limitation, like that's what keeps things going. That's like a game needs rules and you need to be able to lose the game and you need to have a way to win the game and how to engage with the game. So it's just like if there were no limitations, like if it would just be a free for all and that's just chaos and that's not very interesting in the long run.
I've always found it interesting in this cross, and the thing that comes up to me is this difference between and not just this cross, but this whole circuitry is, so the expansion of resources, right? That then to see what can we get done here. Let's pour it on finally, right? That's 42. And 41 though, which is in that same, obviously in that experiential circuitry, abstract circuitry, um, is the limitation of said expansion. It's just funny. These are the two gates that come, at or near the root center. And 41 says, which is all about desire and sort of a thirst and a hunger. Um, let's hold things back on purpose. It's like creating anticipation. And 42, which is the format for 41, says, one of the formats for 41 says, um, hold back all you want, but we're expanding now. So whatever you held back on that then pushed its way through, now we're going to expand on that. It's as if these two guys need each other. It's the only reason I'm bringing up 41, because they have opposite ways of describing the holding back of the pressure or not. It just seems really interesting.
And you're talking about the 41 and which gate specifically?
42,
41
41
and
and
42. Okay,
yep.
interesting.
42 says maximize it all. 41 says
Okay,
contraction
contraction.
and decrease, pull back. They're both in the same stream, both wicked powerful. 42 is not on the root, but it's pointing right at it.
Yeah.
And they say these opposite things, and they create all that pressure that moves upward to that whole experiential process. So hi, we're going to do all of that while abundantly protected by gate 32. So this whole process has got a big fat wisdom sitting on top of it, the intelligence of the spleen. God is very smart.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Yep.
Oh, that was great. All right. Ready for the hexagrams?
Let's do it.
All right. So recap October 14th through the 18th, the sun in 32 and the earth is in 42. The sun, which is duration and continuity, and the hexagrams for this are thunder over wind. This is like fun every like little time when it goes around. They're eventually where they're opposite. So it's thunder over wind
Mhm.
and then wind over thunder. I don't know why
Yeah,
that tickles me so much. So
that's cute.
for right? So for our imagery for the hexagram study, it says thunder and wind are endlessly interchangeable. They are part of a larger and lasting cycle. A noble one's inner nature, subtle as the wind, translates into action as decisive as thunder. So, however, the environment changes, everything he does will always travel in the same direction.
That's such a good description of 32. I mean, that really is. And but by the way, we don't have to parse through some kind of code to try and figure that one out, you know?
Mhm, mhm. Yeah,
Some
yeah,
of
yeah.
them are like you have to really mental gymnastics are required to put it all together, but that one just made sense on the face of it.
hmm The noble one's inner nature, subtle as the wind, translates into action as decisive thunder. So, however, the environment changes, everything he does will always travel in the same direction.
The spleen's decisive, spontaneous nature to create thunder. I love it. It is
Perfect.
spontaneous after all.
Yeah, of course. All right, ready
Mhm.
for 42?
Ma'am, yes, ma'am.
So, 42 is wind over thunder. Wind and thunder are agents of change. Wow, that's so fun. They have such a similarity there. Wind and thunder are agents of change. Thunder is like the inner spark of initiative and will. Wind is far-reaching influence in the world, free moving because of its endless ability to shape itself to the terrain. So the noble one moves as decisively as thunder and with the versatility of the wind. She does not hold fast to a chosen direction, but responds to whatever opportunities for improvement she can see.
Stop right there. I'm noticing a trend. I don't know if this is holds out, but when I'm 32, the noble one was a he, was it
Mhm.
not?
It wasn't this one. No, it was a she.
It's a she, yeah. So I'm noted. We'll see if it happens
I
again
wonder if the
next time.
polarity is balanced that in any kind of conscious way, because the book goes back and forth with it. So
Yeah,
that'll
but
be something to pay
it
attention to.
the pattern appears to be, and I've only just noticed this right now, so I can't tell if I'm actually remembering right, but the pattern appears to be when the lower trigram is more yin than yang. That seems to determine the
Oh,
sex. Yeah,
oh, that's cool. All right.
yeah.
All right,
I
that'll
don't know
be
if that's true.
something.
This is just coming through. I
It's
don't
it's
know
a
if it.
hypothesis. I love
Yep.
it. I love a good hypothesis. We'll see what the next
I
week.
always wondered how these I Ching China guys assigned their his and their her
Yeah.
to things because it had meaning, great meaning. It mattered.
Yeah. That's interesting. So we'll look with the bottom trigram how that continues on.
Yeah, see if
Good
it keeps doing that.
observation.
We'll see
All right,
or not.
fan I mean, it's a perfect, like, hypothesis to bring up. So,
Yeah.
do we have any, like, put it
Well,
all
yeah.
together, wrap a bow on it, put a
What
cherry
else
on
should
top?
people be expecting this week? That I mean, listen, 42 can go out of control. Here's another thing 42 is responsible for doing, not letting go. Its companion polarity on the other side, 52, would love to let go. It just likes to start. It's like a hungry dog on a chain wanting to get loose.
With the
And
53, yeah.
yeah, the 52, but the 42, no, that's the
53,
53.
yeah.
Yeah, the 42 is once it gets a hold of it, its design is to mature that process to completion. That's why this gate is also called the gate of completion. It is a great formatting power to complete the experience.
Completion and continuity, that's interesting.
Yes, the completion of continuity, technically. So its expansive nature would be the expansive nature of the continuity, what the continuity says is okay to expand, technically. But you're looking at expansiveness and this capacity to latch on to something that you want to complete. So 1, 2, 3, start completing things
Mhm,
over the next few days and just feel the energy going through and just recognize it's a transit. It's not in your body unless you
yeah,
have that gate already. So it'll come, it'll go. You might notice this week or just over the next few days that you have the desire to do what is it I'm saying,
mhm.
but then it sort of wanes or it ebbs and it flows as those lines are and are not in harmony or resonance with your profile lines.
Oh, that's interesting.
Literally, quite literally, yeah. And if you're right, then you'll actually sense it more, but be able to recognize it less, unless you're really lucky. And then if you're left, you'll be able to recognize it, but won't be necessarily so sure what you're sensing because you're strategically thinking about it. Just in the now, in the moment, and then take that with you. This is a time to expand stuff. Take a risk. You just got off a risk last week, like I said, right? 51, 57, wasn't that it?
Yeah,
Yeah, uh-huh. So leap still.
mhm.
Call it residual leaping into something expansive. And don't worry, the continuity intelligence will make sure you land on your feet. 32 is like a cat, it lands on its feet, or not, obviously. You always add on, but it's most cats land on their feet. So
Yeah, that's interesting with, like, the Earth being in 42, so grounding ourself in coming to completion, right? Like, are there things that are just lingering on your to-do list? Like, cross that off, start, like, tying some things off, ground yourself, anchor yourself in that for your ongoing continuity, for that to shine through that sun transit of the duration and the continuity and moving forward in a healthy way.
thanks for adding mother into the clumsy boy way I said all of that just a moment ago. It's so much better and well-rounded now.
That's why we work as a pair, because 'cause I'd be lost
Yes,
without you,
wonderful.
so
Yes, yes.
together we have everything.
Perfect. So that's our transit. That's our weather forecast for this week. Just pay attention to what is it you choose to expand.
Mhm. Yeah, bring things to completion. Start
Yep.
crossing things off those, like, you wanna get it done, but you've been kind of, lazing about. Finish that off, ground yourself, anchor yourself in completing some stuff, and yeah, so you can shine that continuity and health and ongoing duration.
And if you don't have these gates in your body graph, watch it as it passes out into the next hexagram coming up. So
Perfect.
50. Yeah.
Alright, well, thank you, Danny.
Yeah. What's next, Moni? So there's Moana, and then we read, and then the
Well
demonstration, and then we read.
well, I think Moana's gonna talk with Natalie and, like,
Yep.
interview her, and they're gonna get into the good stuff, and then, they would do probably the, demonstration, and
Demonstration.
then you guys get to read for a bit, but I'll bring Moana
Yeah.
on, and she'll be able to tell us more.
You guys have a good time.
All right,
Yeah.
tag team out.
Tag
Do, do,
team.
do. All righty. So, like I was teasing before, we have an incredible guest that was a recommendation of Monique that we're going to be bringing on, and you'll see why she's so special. She is a tuning fork specialist, and she will tell you all about her journey as to how it helped her, how it can help you and why it's such a magical way to start your deconditioning process. So, without further ado, let's bring out the superstar, Natalie. Hello.
Oh, it's
We
great to
are,
be here.
right? We are crazy honored to have another ego projector. Like, you guys are unicorns. It's like, there's more of
There's a couple of us.
you. So, it's very, very exciting that we have you on. So, Natalie, tell us what you want us to know about you before I start like digging.
Oh, do you want me to like go into my whole story?
Eh, Hey,
Okay,
you're the boss. You have the
okay.
juice.
Because you
Take us
already,
there.
yeah, you already hinted about this. And just so you know, like this is an actual tuning fork, and we'll get into all of these things. But just so you know, like when she says I'm a tuning fork specialist, like they're real. And
I was gonna
so
say you can tune us up like pianos.
yeah, no, literally, that's how it pretty much works. Because it works with the electricity of your body, and we are electrical beings. And it's like you get tuned up like a piano, and it's a really profound, incredible experience. And that's what I experienced first. So I had this these sessions for myself first before I even became a practitioner of it.
It always starts that way, doesn't it?
Yes.
Someone like
And
profoundly impacts you and you're just like, I need to share this with everybody.
yeah. And I actually got introduced to it because my husband at the time, he's now my ex, but you know, we're still great friends. But at the time, he was working with a client, and they were just on like a Zoom call. I was in the background, just kind of like working, but also like halfway listening. And he said something, this client said something. He goes, "Oh, I have a block around doing that particular thing. Let me call my tuner and I'll have her tune it out, and then we'll reconvene with this." And I was like, "What? What are you talking about?" And he's like, "Oh, well, I have this lady out in California." I think he was on the East Coast. And he's like, "I have this lady out in California, and I just call her. I tell her what's going on. We hang up the phone. She does this thing, and then it goes away." And he's like, "It saves me years of therapy to
I'm
get rid
like,
of these
what
blocks."
sorcery are you speaking of?
Right. And so my husband at the time was like, I would like to try this out. And so he did. He got a session with this lady in California. We're in Utah, or I'm in Utah. He's not here anymore. But at the time we were both here in Utah. And he gets this session. He was in the bedroom across the other side of the house. And I'm in the dining room just sitting, tapping away on my keyboard. And in the middle of this session, all of a sudden I felt this giant burst of energy just come and just like blast me. And I was like, "Oh, there it is." And I was like, "What the hell was that?" And I had
Whoa.
no idea what it was, but like a part of me knew of like that got something really good. And I don't know what it was. And over the next few days, he processed something that um he had gone to many, many, many healers throughout his life, and nobody had ever been able to touch it. So what had happened is about between like ages 5 to 8, I think he has this window of time in his life where he has no memory of this. And the
Oh,
only
it's one
thing
of
that
those
he would
repressed memory things.
it was a repressed memory. The only thing he remembered is going into it, he was a happy kid. Coming out of it, he was not a happy kid. And that's all he knows.
That's a long period to have
It
repressed memories. That's
it
wild.
yes. And so what had happened is the tuner had to come up with the tuning fork and hit this spot in his timeline. And I'll go over what this all means. But she hit this spot in his timeline and sat with it for a good 20 minutes. And what happened was, or what she explained was that he had a brick wall built up around this time frame of his life. And it was the only thing the tuning fork would let her work on him. And the blast was the tuning fork eradicating and blasting through the brick wall.
Oh, wow.
Yes. And so over the next couple days, all the memories came flooding back to him.
Oh my god, that just sent chills down my body. Oh my
Right?
gosh.
So it was actually quite an intense process for him because it was trauma coming up. There was a reason why his body had
It was a
suppressed
protection.
protection, but something really unique happened with it because as he was processing through it, he would feel the emotion, then the emotion would move out and it was gone.
It's no longer just like you putting a lid on the pot. You're letting it simmer and bubble away.
Yes. Well, what happens is the tuning fork comes and harmonizes the attached emotion that gets attached to the trauma. So whatever
Mm.
the event was, it neutralizes it, and then your body can move it up and out. And so over the
So
next
it no
couple
longer perceives it. I just had a visual come up. I'm inner vision, so
okay.
sometimes I think in pictures. I'm like, "Oh, so it's kind of like when your body is going haywire with allergies, right? It's like attacking a thing that really shouldn't be attacked, and your tuning fork comes in and just tells your body or, your emotional body's like, "Hey, that thing is not so scary. You can like stop being on like high alert." Am I getting it kind of sort of right?
Yeah, it's very, very similar to how that works.
Sweet.
Yes. And so over the next couple of days, his body processed and moved out all of the attached emotions to all of it. And he came out the other side a very peaceful, healthier person emotionally
Mm.
because of it. And it made a dramatic change for him. And I was like, oh, that was really cool. I wonder what would happen if I did that.
Oh.
Yeah.
And what happened?
And
You're just like you're giving us this clip. Ellie, you need to tell us what happened.
so I'm like a tactile person. I wanted to experience it in person. And
Ooh,
so
okay.
I found a lady in
A
my
lo-
area who did it. And I drove 45 minutes to go see her.
Mhm.
And
I was gonna say, is there an association? Like, how does this work? How
there
do you
is,
guys network?
yeah. So we all get certified through the same place.
Okay.
So I found her through the, I guess, through the directory that they have on their website,
Mhm. Mhm. Mhm.
and went and saw her. And I remember having my right hip worked on. So she went through and depending on what chakra your body wants you to work on, that's where um, the tuner will work on you, and the body will actually tell them where
I
to
was gonna
work.
say interjection. Was this before or after you knowing about your human design?
Oh, after, much after.
So in the particular when you mentioned the chakra, I'm like, how does that work with like, your traditional seven centered versus the nine?
So, human design shows us that in 1781, we evolved from a seven centered being to a nine centered being. Two of the chakras split. The solar plexus chakra split into the solar plexus and the spleen, and the heart chakra split into the will and the G center. When I'm working on people, those chakras are still represented in the same spot.
Oh, interesting. Because I always
Mhm.
ask that to like Reiki people too. I was like Reiki people who knew human design. I'm like, so like, how do you deal with that? Okay, so they're just dealt in like two for one kind of
Mhm.
package. Okay,
Exactly.
got it.
And then I'll feel it in my body, like where the different spots are. Like, oh, it's like the liver, which is where your solar plexus is, or the spleen, which is the splenic center. Like I'll feel it in the different areas. But yeah, it's
Oh,
getting into
okay.
the nuances of those pieces. So, anyways, I go and see her. I get the right side of my hip, which is the root chakra, worked on, and um, I felt like all of these tingling sensations, like really cool things. Like the tuning forks feel like no other energy work that I've ever experienced before. It's just like tingly, yummy, good sensations that are like, ooh. And she went through this part of my timeline of my life and was driving home. So remember, it's a 45-minute drive back. And I hit traffic on the way home. It was like 4:45 and I'm like hitting rush hour traffic and I'm processing what she had gone through and I did not care. I was so zenned out and so calm and peaceful and also just processing. halfway home, stuck in traffic, all of a sudden I feel this sensation coming out of my chest. And it was this huge, it almost felt like a brick wall type of sensation, but not a brick wall of like I'm walling people off. But it was a strength that all of a sudden it just like came out of my chest. And I was like, whoa, what is this? And I just like sat with it for a minute because it wasn't scary. It was just like weird and different. But the only word that I could really describe how it felt besides like this brick wallish sensation was regalness. Because it was like a strength that like was coming through. And then this other layer started coming through of attitude. Like, no ma'am. Stuff starting to come through. And I was like, oh, I remember you. You are my sassy teenage self.
Oh.
And that part of me got shut down a long time ago. And you're back. And I was like, well, I don't know what to do here. It's like, it's been a long time since her and I have talked, like that I've like
Yeah.
been this person, this sassiness. And I got home. By the time I got home, I walked through the door, and I'm just like almost in a panic, but like not in a bad panic of just like, don't talk to me because I don't like. And I walked in the door. My husband looks at me and he goes, there you are. And I was like, I don't know what's going to come out of my mouth because it's really sassy right now in here. And I'm like, that's like, apologies in advance on this. But that recognition that my energy had started to show up as myself. And he was like, it's about time you showed up.
Oh, that's so
Oh,
nice.
yes. It was an incredible shift that happened. And I had several more BioField tunings. And then and each one builds on top of each of them. So I got to, I think it was about my 5th or 6th one that I had done. And I was in the middle of the tuning session. She was working on the right side of my sacral. So you can do like the left side or the right side, depending on what your body wants. And this was the right side of my sacral center. And in this process, she's going through and all of a sudden my sacral center starts talking to my heart. So there was like an energetic like buzz coming up. And then this energy started like coming up out of my chest. And I was like, oh, I know what this is. Because by the time I had gotten to this point, I had already started with my BioField tuning training because I knew I needed to do this. So I was like, oh, I know what this is. And I'm really surprised that this is here and also not surprised. But it was, if you imagine this as your heart, like the heart chakra area. And then this was a heart shield. Clamped
wow.
super tight on my heart.
Mm-hmm.
And so as the sacral energy is coming up, the shield is starting to come up out of my body.
Ooh.
And I started going into this negotiation because that was scary. And I was like, I'm not ready to let that go. And the sacral is like, let's just do this. And they would like come up a little bit more. They'd like come out a little bit more of like, oh, no. And it was like, became this back and forth that happened. And so finally I was like, okay, negotiation here. What if we took the shield, took the heart shield? Because it's like, what if we experiment with this 3-5 style? Okay. What if we experiment with this and take the shield and place it out here in my aura where I can still find it if I need it? It's within arm's reach. I can get it if I need it. What if I actually tried living life without this heart shield on me?
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, okay, I can do it. So I have like the angel and the demon type thing going on here. I'm like, okay, I can do this. Put the heart shield over there. And that completed the session, is being able to remove the heart shield. And after that, I got home and I had so much going on here. I had so much buzzing sensations. Like I had no idea what was happening. But what I had experienced in the session itself is this pattern that had come up that every time I shined my big heart love, people around me would freak out and I'd have to shut it down. It was
Mm.
too much for them to handle. And so I shielded it. And that was my protection mechanism for
Mm-hmm.
myself. And I sat on my front porch, just feeling all the feels of like, it was like just radiating so much love that had been activated.
Mm-hmm.
And as I sat there, my heart started to talk to me.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's magic.
Yeah. And it started to tell me this is what it feels like to unconditionally love yourself.
Oh.
Nobody can ever take this away from you ever again. This is for you and nobody else. Now, this is also what it feels like to have the saucer of your heart full and you give from the overflow. This is what it really feels like. And your cup will now always be full because you've learned how to fill it up. And so my heart really started talking to me in this way. And it's been talking ever since, by the way. And then, like, I went to the store and, well, like, before I leave that part, I'm bawling because it's
Of
so
course,
beautiful.
that's a giant release. I would be probably farting and burping and like every kind of release happening at the same
You're
time
like
to like adjust. Yeah.
bawling because I'm so full of love. And then I go to the store and my heart, I can feel it. My heart starts talking to other people's hearts. And I was like, what do we do here? And those people would come up to me and talk. And I would have conversations with people. Like they were good conversations. You know, I was like, what is happening?
Wow.
And so what I realized is like, because it would be like, like
I was gonna say, as a projector, it's like someone like took the dial of your like penetrative aura and just like maxed it out, and it's like a laser beam. Just
yeah,
like, I pick you.
yeah. Well,
Wow.
and it was very, very interesting. And it took me about a year to really learn the heart language because it's a whole other different vibration.
Mm.
And I was like, oh, this is our next level of understanding. And my husband at the time, we had gone out to eat a couple days later, and we were sitting at a bench across from each other. And he just looked at me. He's like, "Can you point that thing somewhere else, please? Because it's just really intense for me right now." And I was like, "Oh, this is how it's been in my past, where my big love has really been too
Shut
much for
down.
people."
Yeah.
And shut down, and I was unwilling to shut it down again.
Of course. What are you supposed to do? Like turn to the side?
That's what I did. I was like, "What if I did this? How does that feel?" And he's like, "Oh, that's better."
Okay, someone else is on the receiving end of your Care Bear energy, I
Yeah,
suppose.
but and I realized that the will center connected to the G center, my will center really became activated and motorized the G center. So I now have a very motorized heart. And I know what that feels
I was
like.
going to say interjection because now I have like all the questions happening. I'm
Sure.
like, okay, what was your hubby's design or
Um,
ex-hubby, I should
he
say?
was an emotional manifesting generator. He had 8 out of the 9 centers defined. He had an open G center.
Oh, I wonder if that was a thing. That's you can
Yeah,
give me an interpretation one, and then two, like you said that he introduced you to the tuning, but you sound like you did more sessions than he did. Am I
absolutely.
correct? So,
Yes.
okay, so you were
But
like way
oh yeah.
further along.
Yes, much further along. I did do sessions on him. He became my practicing buddy.
Yeah, that like, you
Like,
know, the guinea pig, right? As
yeah,
the
he's my guinea pig. So, he did receive more tunings, but they can get pretty intense. And so he would just do them periodically.
Yeah. Oh wow.
Yeah. So um it was just this magical unfolding for me
Hmm.
to experience that. And my heart has been motorized ever since. And how I look at that now and how through that experience, I realized that my greatest conditioning was actually on my inner authority.
Whoa, that sent chills.
Yeah.
Wild
And
town.
yeah. And how many other people's inner authorities have been shut down through the conditioning.
Oh, absolutely. And I mean, like ego authorities are like so rare onto itself. So there's so little support and information compared to the other like major authorities. So it's like, okay, no one gets it. No one understands me. Must be some, and again, before human design, you're just like, I guess I just have to like conform and be like everyone else. Here comes the great homogenization. So of course, it's like your whole lifetime's worth of like peeling that back. Yeah, that's incredible that you found a tool to not only do that and two, like be your best, most juicy, epic, powerful ego project yourself. Like, yes,
Yeah.
amazing.
Thank you.
You're getting me all jazzed up. I'm like, it's either your ego just like filling up my completely empty ego, just like, woo! And I have one sad gate 10 in my G. So it's
Oh,
like, so I'm just like taking it all in and like amplifying it. I'm like, oh yeah, Natalie, more of that, please. Very
and
exciting.
yeah, and one of the things that I discovered because I wanted to play more with this,
Hmm.
and I have had so many people come onto my table, because I have a table that I
I
work
was
with.
just like, I had a scene from Dexter pop into my brain. I'm like, pretty sure it's not that table.
Not that table. It's a chiropractic table, actually.
Okay,
Um,
a very
and
different table.
yeah, I have a massage table, but I prefer the chiropractic table. And the I've had generators come to me and say, "I've never felt my sacral center turn on." And I the tuning forks will turn it on. And they'll come up out of the session and literally all they can be is like, uh-huh, uh-uh, uh-huh, uh-uh. Like it's just going. I was like, there it is.
Okay, query, because you
Yeah,
talked about inner authority, and I'm just like, I have so many questions.
ask away.
Between Okay, so I guess it's like a two-parter. Okay, so question one, and we're completely deviating off the original path of questions because I'm like, other ones. These came to me, my right mind, and completely undefined head and ajna. So it's like it's coming to me as we're like talking. Query one. Have you noticed a difference between, I guess, the different energy types and like what are their like almost like a pattern, like have you noticed a pattern of like if I work on this type enough, this is what ends up happening with reflectors, or this is what ends up happening with mgs and projectors, and then two, if not with the energy types, have you noticed that with like the different authority types, like an emotional authority tends to do this versus like a lunar authority tends to like get this result, like thoughts.
With the results. So everybody is different,
Hmm.
even within the types and all of that stuff. A lot of projectors prefer to talk through the whole thing, and which is totally fine with me because I talk through the whole thing too. Um, and you know, generators sometimes will too, but it's different for everyone. So I haven't necessarily recognized those consistent type of patterns that you're asking for.
Sure.
Um, but one thing that I'm sure you're super curious about as a manifester is I actually have a lot of manifestors who come to me
Uh-huh.
because the aura penetration with a tuning fork feels really good for manifestors.
I bet. I was like, please get inside our tank.
Yeah.
Our
And
fourth fork.
the tuning fork lets me in, and I get to see manifestors and their beautiful, gooey,
I was
gushy,
gonna be like the
lovely.
squishy. I like to
Mhm.
think of. I don't know if you've watched SpongeBob SquarePants. I feel like manifestors are a little bit like plankton, right? They like put up this front, it's like, "Meow, look at me, my like robot and all the things, and it's like they're like this tiny squishy thing under all that stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's really a beautiful process for manifestors because, and sometimes I have to like hang out at the edge of the aura and be like, I need your permission to come in. And then they'll let me in. But the tuning fork feels so good to get through that. It's like an aura massage for them.
Man, like the closest thing I can say that so our first guest we had on was a sound healer, but she uses gongs and bowls, and I met her at an in-person event. And yeah, my cells were vibrating. And I'm like, I've never felt this before. So I'm like, I wonder if you do something similar or even more
Yeah.
intense than the gongs. Because the gongs, I'm like, my soul, what is happening?
Yeah. Well, and the thing that I have noticed is not necessarily by type, but I've noticed people who do energy work, who are healers and work like Reiki and all this stuff, they move and process the energy faster.
Ah, okay.
So like their body's already used to some of the stuff already, and then their body gets the hang of it a lot faster, and then
Hmm.
like will process things really quickly.
Okay.
Um, but speaking of on the cellular level, we'll go off on
Yes.
this a little bit of tangent.
Yeah.
One of the things that Ra talks about in PHS in human
Hmm.
design is that there's color, tone, and base,
Yes.
and the color and tone talk to each other,
Yes.
but they
Hmm.
don't get to the base.
Yeah, the base is
Nothing.
untouchable.
Base is untouchable except for through
Through?
sound and vibration.
No.
Mhm.
What?
Yes.
Oh, that's exciting. I
Yes.
did not know that.
Yes.
For
So it's not
anyone that's like,
untouchable.
why is Moana freaking out? We will get to PHS one day. Then it'll make sense. Because the way we're doing the stream is we're like building, it's like building blocks. Like we started very basic. We did the energy types and then we moved on to the authorities, and then we did the centers, and then we did the profiles, and now we're taking a break because the profiles was wild town. It was every single energy type under a profile
Oh,
brought on
wow.
all together.
Wow.
We called it the profile line series, and it was like 58 different guests, and I'm like, let's do something a little bit more chill.
Holy cow.
This is the chill series that you're on, the deconditioning one. But yeah, after that, we're going to go into definition and circuitry, and then at some point we will get it to PHS. But yes, this is a little
Yeah.
preview, friends, for
Yes.
what PHS is.
Yeah, so, being able to actually penetrate down to the base level of
What?
our
What?
cells and our design. One of the
That's
things
exciting.
that Eileen McCusick talks about, Eileen McCusick is the founder of BioField Tuning. One of the things she talked about, and this is what really like perked me up. One day I heard her say that the tuning forks reset you back to factory settings.
That's amazing. Give me factory reset. Sign
Yeah.
me up.
So I was like, wait a second. Reset factory settings, deconditioning all the way down to the base level. This does it.
What? Oh my
Yeah.
gosh.
Which just thrills me to pieces that
I'm
I've been able
to pieces too.
that
What
I've
do
been
you
able to discover
mean?
this and experience this,
Are you saying
and
you can shorten that 7 years?
not
Mm,
necessarily,
speed it up, do
but I
something?
have found that it greatly enhances your deconditioning process. I would not be where I am at in my, like, big heart awakening, living in my ego authority with no problems, like, I just live it now,
Mhm.
um, without the tuning forks.
I was gonna say, okay, let's pretend for a second. Alternate reality, you never found the tuning forks.
Okay.
How different would your deconditioning process look like?
I don't know if my heart ever would have been able to wake up at the level it has. I literally do not know.
Yeah, so it's like basically night and day. Like
Yeah.
you're just like error code doesn't compute. What does that mean?
Yeah. Like it would have waken up in other softer ways,
Mm.
but this was such a powerful shift that, I mean, maybe in 20 years it would have eventually gotten to the point where it was
Okay,
flaking
there
up.
is a speeding up here then.
Yeah.
There it definitely it's just like it it would it would get there eventually, but
Yeah, it would get there
it's
eventually.
like a not a master's, it's like an accelerated program at a
Mhm.
school. Let's get your bachelor and master's at the same time. Go.
Yeah,
It's
it's
incredible.
exciting.
No, they're just like you have a glow. Like
Thank you.
it's not your
And
lighting. I think it's your heart juices just like
thank
giving
you.
you this a youthful glow. So it's doing something.
Good. Yay. I have a splenic manifestor client who comes to me, and what she's described it as is she feels like the deconditioning just like flakes away, like peels off and flakes away.
Yeah.
Just like floats and it's gone. And she thinks it's the best thing ever. Like,
Oh,
I agree.
that's
I have
cool.
like the flaking. I don't necessarily experience it in the flaking way that she does,
I
but
was gonna
that's how.
say, yeah, yeah. I guess it really depends on one. We all have different types of conditioning.
Yes, and different wounds and different traumas and all these different factors in it. Like I've met ego projectors who are beautiful heart-centered beings, and they live like such an easier existence, but there's still, so much room to actually have this motorized heart because the world is heavy
Mhm.
and does put all kinds of things on us.
Mhm.
And I really have found that one of our greatest lessons as humans is to learn how to let it go. And
Mhm.
it's not just an Elsa song, you know?
That song makes me all teary. Maybe it's my
I
emo authority, but I'm like, yes,
Oh no, I
queen,
love that
sing it.
song. I love it. But our bodies have to learn how to release it, which is why like the somatic movement is starting to become so popular,
Mhm. Mhm.
because that helps to start our body, giving our body techniques and processes and strategies on how to start releasing this stuff from our,
Yeah.
like on a
Mhm.
cellular level. And the tuning forks do that as well, just at an energetic and electricity frequency
Yeah.
range. And it's very
Mhm.
specific because we have beautiful things like sound baths
Yes,
that
that's
are.
who we had. We had a sound bath specialist. Mhm.
Yes, so it's a beautiful thing to experience. There are some times where I'm like, I just need to go into a sound bath. Like I just need that reset for myself.
Mhm.
But even the sound bath, the sound bowls, as beautiful as they are,
Mhm.
they do different things than what the tuning forks do. The tuning forks are very, very specific on picking up the traumas, the depressions, the emotions that are not harmonious with who we are.
Mm.
And it finds those disharmonious pockets
Mhm.
and it harmonizes them so your body can then move them out and process
Right.
them.
Right. Right. Yeah, it's like a neutralizing thing. That's amazing. So
Yeah.
I was going to say, unless there's something else you want to tell our audience, so I'm going to audience, if you're not like completely jazzed yet about Natalie, like go check out her links and it will
So I
get you
sent a
jazzed.
couple links over, and I sent them over because I wasn't sure where we were going to go with our conversation. So I
Yes.
have oratuning.com for people who would like to book a tuning fork session with me.
Hmm.
I have nataliemaricollins.com because I've been a business coach for 12 years, and that's where that lies. Also, my tuning fork work is on there as well. And then the other link that I have is xonatalie.com, which is my new project that I'm moving everything over onto. And it's me handwriting all kinds of things. I started a a newsletter subscription for people that talks about human design, harmonizing who we are and how to get in harmony, not only with our human design, but us in life and the lessons and stuff behind that. And I handwrite everything because this is what my heart has instructed me to do, because my heart can speak through my hand.
Oh, yep.
So I have to handwrite everything. So I sign off all of my letters with XO, Natalie.
Oh, that's so nice. The outlet for the heart through your
Yes.
exos. That's so. Oh, that's you make me feel mushy.
Thank you. And so eventually I'm moving everything over there. The other two sites will still be in existence, but I'm in the process of moving everything over onto exonatalie.com because that is what my heart wants.
Amazing. So, without further ado, I think everyone, including myself, is just like, Natalie, show us what you can do. And also explain to us, like, what does it entail? Like, what part, I guess, in a human designy sense, are you looking at? It's like, oh, people have messed up egos. We're going to look at that today. Or, I don't know. You choose the thing. I know
Oh,
you have a thing.
so usually when I start with people, when I do a tuning fork session with people, and I also do this in group sessions. So I will do group
Oh.
tunings. I can do group tunings. Where I
Wow,
tune the whole
you're a
room.
wizard. You can do groups?
I can do
What?
groups.
Amazing. I thought it was like, oh, this is definitely a onesies and twosies kind of thing. No, you can do
Groups.
like, yeah, party, tuning parties. Tune all the pianos. Let's go.
Yes. All the instruments. Well, that's one of the funny things. I had a very mystical experience about 3 years ago, which is part of what my heart wants me to share. And I'm like,
Yes, please share.
you want me to teach?
I'm like, I live in Tangent City, so it's all good.
Okay. So in my mystical experience, I went to a shamanic retreat, and for 3 days I was downloaded with information from the channel. I call it the channel. So I channel as well. So when I get into tuning fork sessions, I also channel. And so what the channel showed me is that everything in the universe, including our bodies, are instruments. That was on
Oh,
day one.
wow.
Mhm.
Oh my God, it's so much nicer than cars.
Right?
Raw with the
The
whole
vehicle.
car vehicles, and it's like, that doesn't do anything for me. But
No.
instruments, wow.
All of our cells are individual, like crash cymbals on a drum set
Mhm.
and will chime, and they all have their own little unique frequency.
Mhm.
And the second day, the channel showed me that how the instruments work. And yeah, and how human design is a very integral part of this.
Yes.
And
Of course it is.
yes. And
It's so nice
also
to get validation like that. It's like, yes.
yes. And then on the third day, the channel showed me how to play the instruments. And how to play the instruments and tune them.
Oh, that's so incredible.
Mhm. So, and it's
I have like
all
such a nerdy question for you, but
okay,
please finish
good.
your thought. So
Oh,
I'm like, this is so nerdy and so goofy. I'm like, I wonder if you've thought about this.
I don't
Is
know.
okay, so as part of the channel and all the back end stuff we do, we're always doodling around with like, okay, all the astrological symbols, like they have like an Aries is a ram, a Taurus is a knight. Like for human design, there isn't really a thing. So with the team, we're like, okay, so like what if we had objects to represent each type, or even animals, right? So I've thrown some ideas around, the team has thrown some ideas around, but I'm like, have you thought about this in terms of what each energy type would be for what type of instrument?
No, actually what the channel showed me is what each center's instrument is related to.
Tell me, please, I want to know.
Actually, I have it written down in my journal. I don't know them by heart, but I do know that the
Whatever you
root
remember.
center. Well, the root center is the drum.
That makes sense. Sure.
So yeah, and then I think the heart or the G center is the guitar, like the heartstrings.
Oh.
And I was like, oh, that's really cool. And then the throat is the symphony because it's all of them together because everything
Oh,
is
that's
trying to come out
beautiful.
to express itself. Yeah. So
Yeah.
there's there's different there's just like the different levels, and I'm trying to remember. One was a violin.
I was like,
I'm
which
trying to
one's the I want to know the difference between like the spleen and the ESP. That would be interesting.
Yeah, that's written down in my journal. I have to go find it because I
I'm
have
gonna
like
have to
detailed. I have
I'm
like
like I'm
detailed
gonna have
stuff.
to bug you about that later because yeah. I'm like,
Yeah, that was detailed information that I just like wrote down, and the shaman came outside when I was writing all this. She goes, "I feel like you're writing the Sea Scrolls," and I was like, "I pretty much am."
that's
That was
incredible.
all I told her. And then my heart has very much been like, "You have to write a book about what you were told." And I'm like, "What? You want me? You want me to write about what?"
Have you written the book? Have you started the book?
I have started the book.
Okay, good. I'm
Yeah.
like, come on, Natalie. The world needs this book. I need this book. I'm sure everyone on the team right now is like, where's Natalie's book?
I know that one. So, that one's in the works. I have another one that's coming before it. So it's like a precursor, and then also with the newsletter I was telling you about, we'll also dive into all of these little things that I was shown and given as well.
Okay.
So in relation to human design. So like I started off the entire series, the newsletter stuff, with a how your inner authority works with divine timing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's incredible. And Moni will tell you, it's like, yeah, impatient manifester, always like, where's the results? I don't see it. So,
But yeah,
yay.
and so like the second one that I've created is a continuation of that, of how the strategy works with divine timing, and then I'll bring them together. So strategy and authority with divine timing, and how that works together so that it's not so stressful to understand how your inner authority, why it works the way that it works.
Hmm.
And that's one of the things that the past year and a half since I've had this big heart awakening, maybe 2 years, maybe it's been 2 years. I have to look at my journal. That I've been interpreting and learning this language has also been syncing up with divine timing and how that really works. And it's so much fun. And so those are some of the lessons that I'm like relaying into. Not only is your inner authority like your precious piece of information to guide you along your path, but it's also, when you're synced up with that, there's actually 3 kinds of timing. There's external timing, which
Hmm.
is clock based and
Yep.
calendar based.
Calendar based.
It's
Yep.
logical, it's actually connected with the mind.
Yep.
And then there's internal timing, which is your inner authority.
Right.
And then the third type of timing is divine timing. And so when your mind and heart or inner authority connect up,
Hmm.
they also sync up with divine timing.
I was just gonna be like, synchronized calendars for
Yeah.
your life? Yes, sign
So
me up. I have drank your Kool-Aid, Natalie. This is amazing.
thank you. But yeah, so I teach lessons like that too, because in understanding that, with you having emotional inner authority,
Hmm.
you're like, come on, hurry it up. But your emotional wave is working in
Yep.
its thing. How the emotional wave is working is, as it's going through this, the universe is like, oh, good, she's in her decision process. We're going to click things into place while
Yeah.
she's
Yeah.
waiting. And then when your wave equals out and
Yeah.
like
It
mellows
peters
out,
out. Yep.
then everything is clicked together in divine timing and goes bloop, it
Ugh,
matches up.
that's beautiful. Sign me up. Sign me up because it's not been working that way. So
Yeah.
again, we are probably gonna live in tangent land forever if we don't get Natalie up and showing us her
Okay.
tuning magic. So
Yeah.
I am going to give the floor to you and
Okay.
pop away, and you let us know whatever we need to know. Do we need to sit up? Do we need water? All the things. Let us know.
Oh, sure. Okay. So before I get started with the actual tuning session itself, so for your information, this is the map of the BioField. This is the BioField anatomy map, and this just shows us what we find in the aura when in relation to the particular chakras that are worked on. And so usually when I'm doing groups, I'll do one of two things. I will either ground everyone, which is super fun, or I will work on the root chakra, and I will probably go through and ground everyone on this and just see what comes through with the information. So with grounding, there's actually another energy center that is found below the bottom of your feet, and this is called your Earth Star. On the BioField anatomy map, you can see that little guy right here. Most people's Earth stars are tucked up in between their ankles because most people don't feel that it is safe to walk on this earth and actually feel grounded. So most people feel very ungrounded, and it's chaos and it's scattered and the energy doesn't know where to go, which builds up chaos even more, and it makes it really hard to relax. And so when we tap into that Earth Star energy, what we do is take it from inside of the ankles and draw it back down to its right place, which is 10 to 12 inches below the bottom of your feet inside the earth. And then I go through and connect it up to the core of the earth so that you feel nice and grounded with that. So with that, I have a regular tuning fork right here. I also have a hockey puck, and I'm going to change my sound so that you guys can actually hear the tuning fork. I may sound a little bit different because of it. And so I'm just going to go in and give you guys a little bit of a demo with this. Now you can get super comfortable if you want. You can lay down. You can just relax on your couch. You can listen to this while you're driving. Just don't close your eyes and like super get into the trance with it. Just be cautious with it. And because this is not a frequency that will put you to sleep, but it will relax you. So if you're on the freeway or whatnot, just don't. It's better to park your car. But if you're a passenger in a car, it's fine. And so yeah, get nice and comfy. You may want a blanket, but I'll go through for about 5 minutes and just ground everyone who's listening. And I'm going to set the intention right now that everyone listening live and also everyone listening in the future, that everybody's energy is connected in here, and we all receive what we need from this. So if you're ready, I'm ready. So let's do this and go. So the first couple strikes may feel a little uncomfortable, and I'm feeling a lot of heaviness in the chest, some anxiety, chaos that happens in the chest, making it hard to breathe, take a deep breath. And this tells me that a lot of people are in fight or flight mode who are listening to this. And that fight or flight mode can really wreak havoc on helping us feel safe in the world. So as the tuning fork is doing its work, it's gathering up all of the chaos that's surrounding you right now. And if you feel like you need to take a big breath and just breathe that out. All that chaos can just float away. You may hear me burp a little bit because that's my body helping your body to release it. And as this is gathering all of the energy, it's going to bring it back down into that Earth Star. And so here in a moment, you'll feel that shift. And it's starting to mellow. You probably hear it in my voice. The mellowness starts to kick in. And as that kicks in, your body will start to relax and just kind of like drops into the relaxation of it. Just a reminder that it is safe to be on this world, walking this planet in a human body, having a human experience. This is for you, and it is safe to experience this. Good. Okay. So now I'm going to go through and I'm going to connect everyone down to the core of Mother Earth. And as we connect down to the core of Mother Earth will come back up and greet us and fill us with beautiful, healing earth energy. So you may feel your shoulders drop. You may feel that deep sigh of relief, like, oh, yes, thank you. And we'll just do one more to really sink this in. Beautiful. Now everyone listening is nice and grounded, and we can come back. And I'm going to switch my audio over so my voice may change a little bit. And there we go. All right, everyone. Enjoy feeling nice and grounded. And Moana, if you want to come back on, you're more than welcome. She may have stepped away. Oh, there you
Yes.
are.
I was
Okay.
like, oh, hey, I can relax. Ta-da! Woo, yeah, it felt like a power wash. Right? And just like, and they're
Yeah.
like, ooh. Yeah, very, very different from a sound bowl. But
Yeah.
definitely feel like the surge of like energy just came out of nowhere. It was like, oh, I was kind of tired before, and now I don't feel so tired. Wow.
Good.
Thank you. That was some wizardry, and that was you just doing like the Earth Star. That wasn't even you going and like
Yeah, I
actually.
didn't go into a full session. A full session is an hour-long session. So I didn't want to go into a full session.
Oh, of
Usually I
course
just
not.
help people get grounded because that's one of the gifts of the tuning forks that I love to give is getting people grounded, especially after the whole virus incident that wreaked havoc on people's ability to ground. It
Mm,
just completely disconnected so many people and put people in such a big fear state, especially because of the lack of grounding. And it's really interesting because when I connect up with people's earth stars, I can feel if they've caught it, if they've gotten COVID, or if they have gotten the vaccine from it. There's
mhm.
a very particular vibration that comes with each one of them. And the tuning fork will tell me.
Wow,
Yeah.
that is incredible that you can. I mean, yeah, everything is vibration, so you
Mhm.
could sense
Yeah.
all sorts of things. It's you're almost like part medical intuitive. Like, are you able to do that with like other
Um,
diseases? Have you noticed as like, oh, you had cancer or something? I don't know.
I have a lady who will come to me who has been going through breast cancer,
Hmm.
and I can feel it, and I feel it like, oh, it's right here. Like I can feel these things um from their body. Like I'll feel it in mine of like, oh, you have something right here. Like I feel all kinds of stuff. So it's just I just relay what I'm feeling. And like I had a lady that I worked on earlier today. I was like, how's your blood sugar? She's like, it's kind of under control now. And I was like, okay. That, yeah.
Wow. Yeah, that's Wild Town. I'm sure Danny is like super, super excited to be like, and now we'll look at what's in your chart that makes you such a wizard at the tuning forks.
I would love to hear that.
Yes, I was going to say, please make it as interactive as possible. Like, please ask lots of questions. Be like,
Okay.
oh, I mean, you've been in human design for
8
like
years.
8 years, but
Mhm.
Danny's been doing it for 17,
Ooh.
18. So he's like this, well, like when he starts going, I'm like a fetus compared to like you and Danny's human design knowledge. So a lot of things just goes like right over. Like, what does that mean? Like many things when we started the show, I would just like nod along and be like, yeah. And only now does it make sense. I'm like, oh, that's what that meant. Derp derp. Okay. So anyhow, maybe he will give you some derp derp moments
I
and
would
then you'll
love
catch
that.
it in the replay and then you're like, oh, that's what that meant. So those are the best. If you're able
Okay.
to get those out of him,
Yes.
like
Yes.
mwah, chef's kiss. I think your knowledge is maybe not at the point where you'll get derp derps, but I I'm imparting that onto him. Like, please give them
Thank
because they're
you.
the best. They feel
I randomly
amazing.
will have them. I'm like, what is this?
What does that mean? Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. So, without further ado, I'm going to bring our master chart reader, Danny, to do his magic. And again, it was a pleasure meeting you and
Pleasure meeting you.
feeling your magicalness, Natalie. And I'll drop your links again as we wrap up the show. But for
Okay.
now, tag
Perfect.
team.
The Matrix reader. That's on my last podcast. I think that's what we the Matrix decoder.
Ooh. Ooh, I love it.
Jennifer came up with it. It just sort of came out one day, and I thought it was really cool. It's fun decoding the matrix. You see it when you read charts for people now, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you see little aspects that matter a great deal, and they allow you to say the right words. It's got to be incredible.
Yeah, and I didn't start reading charts until they started talking to me. And then I knew I was ready to read charts.
So it took a little while.
Yeah. It
Yeah,
was about 4 years before I would read other people's charts.
that's too freaking funny. Guess when I started,
When?
as soon as I realized it was a thing, I
Oh,
started bragging on it. I was like, "This is the thing. This is the thing." Why,
well,
Dan? I don't know.
I will say that I immediately started pulling all of my clients' charts and I started coaching them based on their strategy and authority.
Right.
But I didn't do full on chart readings that I charged for
Right.
until they started talking to me.
I got you. No, I
Yeah.
totally understand that. So the whole thing was quite amazing, just sort of watching this whole thing unfold. And I know there was this question sort of as we were talking before, but you had this great experience, right? Your heart
Mhm.
opened up. It was like the Grinch, his heart grew 3 sizes that day. Do you remember the
Yeah.
movie? Do you
Yes.
remember? Do you remember identifying with that particular moment deeply?
Yes.
You
Very
must have.
much.
Yeah,
Yeah.
me too, by the way. I have a 25 in my chart, vessel of love. So
Oh.
I'm always waiting to accept that shock, in that moment where the heart grows 3 sizes. But it's so this moment, but before that, there was this teenager that had been basically
Yes.
put aside, right? And the capacity basically of this, I'm looking at this and I'm like, people who are able to put stuff aside without constantly talking about the trauma of it all usually have this gate 26. So I went to your gate 26 and I start looking. I shouldn't say usually. I don't know if it ends up usually, but it seems to be. Um, and and this capacity to manipulate memory. Have you looked over the lines of your gates? Because I want to go to a couple things. What is it that channels inside of Natalie?
Mm.
And you probably have ideas and know, and between you and I, we'll get it all. And what is
I've
it that
asked what the channel, like who am I channeling when I channel? And the answer that I get, besides that it's none of my business, is universal consciousness is what I channel.
we're all channeling that? That's what
Yeah.
the nine-centered form is. It already is a tuning fork. And
Yes.
I'm a pianist, so I've been playing the
Oh.
piano my whole life. So when you were talking about different instruments, I was like, "Oh, that's brilliant. We love that." That work because it is. You give the different types an instrument too. Who did you say was a guitar player? I stepped away for just a second.
It's the heart.
The ego center. Gotcha.
Yeah.
Yep, of course.
Yeah.
shredding it up.
Yeah. And the heartstrings.
So what is it that channeled? What is it that awakened? What is it that allowed you to forget? And is it even bad that you forgot? Did you think at the time that you were realizing I put this thing away? Did you have some kind of concern that, oh, I probably shouldn't have buried that? Or
I've missed her,
right,
but she got
good,
me in trouble a lot.
which you're supposed to, no, undoubtedly. The farther back
Um,
in time we go, the more correct we are.
yes.
It's like that, yeah. It's a
Yeah, I had to shut it down, because of my first marriage, was
mm,
not a healthy one for me, and I shut it down during that period of time.
yep. Oopsie, you bumped into the wrong husband, did you?
Yeah, I did. That 3-5, it just gets me.
The unexpected. It's the unexpected, and I
Do.
heard Moana call you a Care Bear, and I look at your chart, and as soon as I hear other people using keynotes, I looked at the chart and I'm like, because I had forgotten you were unexpected. I was sort of looking at something else, and there's 27 right there. So he took your care, but back to this capacity that woke you up in a moment, right? What have you made it? What aspects have you in your chart? Could you say that maybe that you would have gone to for that when you're looking at this? Like, what in me is it I can help understand with my vibration that is me? Did you do any
Oh,
of that?
um, I studied the will and the G and that 2551 channel very intently
Mhm.
for quite a long time, trying to understand, what the heck it was.
This thing is perfect. It's a you have such harmonies in your body. This thing is constantly being called into action.
Yes.
But I mean, you're aware when it's being called because it's
Mhm,
black, but you're not really aware the calling is it's this individual. So the calling is the pulse. What you referred to earlier, I forgot the word you used, but it was that this divine consciousness in the now.
mhm.
I mean, it only happens in a pulse. It happens like creation. It happens. And
Yes.
outside of our will, we can't like will it per se to happen. It happens.
Yes, and I have very much realized that, one of the things that I realized is that Ra talks about no choice. And
Helpless and incompetent, I think he says.
oh, so what I realized is that like no choice rubbed me the wrong way.
Me too.
And then I realized what he actually meant by it was that, and this is my own interpretation of it, is that we have no choice as to what our inner authority responds to. We don't have a
Right.
choice on if it responds yes and no to whatever is being presented to us.
Mhm.
But we do have the choice to follow it or not.
Right.
And that's where free will comes in.
And in a nutshell, that sums it all up. And the closer our free will is aligned to our strategy and authority, obviously, then the better we get. That's a cosmic alignment just all by
Yes.
itself. And it
Yes.
takes us out of our transferences and so forth. But so I'm looking at this and I see the channeler in you um is this gate 47 up there. It's not the only thing, but
Mm,
it's the biggest one. It's the gate 47 and then the gate 43. This is the thing. As soon as the channel is broken, meaning 47 is only unconscious, and you really only got one unconscious break in your definition. You're almost all you got two channels. I see that, but of the two channels, it's three of the four gates are conscious and one is unconscious. Whenever that's the case, and you got one unconscious gate amongst multiple definitions, that thing gets all this focus of being the thing that sucks because it's always there, it's always working, but it keeps coming out of a tunnel. And you know the name of 47, it's oppression. But the oppression is this adverse state that comes to realization. So your whole life, by the way, I have the same configuration you do. I have 63, 64, 47, 43. And then
cool.
we have some of the same lines. I have it in the sixth line, the 64, you do too. I have the 47 in the second line, you do too. You and I both have the 43 and no, we don't have that in common, but so I know what this is like, and that's where my one unconscious gate is. It's in the
Mm.
64. And one day I realized, oh, that's why I get so confused, because the pressure to be confused comes out of nowhere. The life force sustaining pressure that brings me so much joy when I don't care. It you know, it 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 comes out of nowhere. And I experience that like, a 2-ton heavy thing, a heart attack sometimes. Um, Yours is reversed in the 47. Here comes, it's not the only place you would channel, but the 47 oppression. Let's see, I opened it up here. I was looking through some of the lines. Do you go to the back of the book much?
Every once in a while.
Yeah, I live back here.
Oh,
Yeah, you've got 47, excuse me, yeah, I got 47 here. Where is it? Your 47 is in line 2. So ambition is that line 2. And that ambition is this, you got it in line 1 as well, don't you? 47? No.
no, I don't have
40.
47.
Yeah, you got one line 1. 47 line 2 ambition. Yep, it's realizing that to be mentally busy is
Oh, there it
healthy.
is. Okay.
Yeah. It's the ambition and drive to overcome personal oppression. The personal oppression is that it's confusing,
Mm.
and that the realization hasn't struck yet. And for you, that's added on to by your gate 43 being defined twice, because that thing is hungry to spit it out.
Yeah.
It's just always, it says, I hear your I know voice as you talk, by the way, as I was listening to you. And it says, I know, I know, I know, I know. And it knows, but it knows it can't spit it out half the time. That's confusing.
Yeah, and that's gotten me incredibly frustrated, and partly, I'm like, it's here. I see it, I smell it, I taste it. It's all here. Like it's not coming out.
You and me both, by the way. Mine is amplified even from that, because I'm a manifesting generator, and that's my one bridging gate.
Mhm.
So the whole
Mm.
focus of my life was on like smashing into people to tell them I know, and out would come not I know, except once in a while when I truly did know, had it all
Mm.
put together. Um, so I just find that amazing. So that ambition is yours exalted 47. Yeah, it is. So it's only this, it's only exaltation. It's this
Okay.
ambition and drive to overcome this personal oppression in order to achieve security. The security is knowing that the oppression leaves. The ambition and drive to overcome is a second line. It's called out of you. So you don't even know that you're necessarily confused at the moment as it relates to the oppression, but it comes out of a tunnel. And so here is the oppression. And what is the oppression designed to do? It's designed to convert into realization that then comes out through your gate of breakthrough, or your gate 17, or even your 56, as a story that knew the stuff and had a ton of details and an opinion about it. I know you
Yeah.
don't have gate 62, but 17's pointing at it. And so
Mhm.
when you see a bunch of details, you love that.
Oh, absolutely.
Yep. Unless someone asks you to organize them all, and then, you know, maybe you don't love that so much. Is that
I love organizing things.
all the details?
It depends on what it is.
How about when there's a whole ton of them?
So when I do coaching with people, so it kind of depends on the situation, but like when I do coaching with people, they'll come and they'll just like word vomit all the things onto me of like,
Mhm.
these are all the things I have going on in my business. I'm like, cool, lay it all out. And then I naturally go through and I'm like, okay, we need to do these things, and we need to do these things, and then do these things. And like, I'll organize those in that way. And like, I love doing that.
Mm.
Um, I also love putting together furniture. Like
I
IKEA,
I don't blame
love
you. Yeah, I don't blame you. It's, to stay mentally active is a healthy thing.
it. Mhm.
That's what this says, and it's in the second line, so it resonates or harmonizes deeply with your fifth line nature, which is hungry for its influence.
Yes, and I do a lot of research, and there's all like, especially in human design, there's all these different pieces and parts, and everything's like scattered to the wind, it feels like. And so I've developed a system to um, stick it together in different ways.
Does that research sound a little bit like a dedication to patience once you realize you've been patient and you recognize your dedication to it?
Ooh. Yes.
Line 2, dedication. Line 1, patience. 43. The reason I wouldn't have even brought up 43 too terribly much, but I'm bringing it up because I look for a lot of things in a chart. You've got a lot of really cool anomalies in your chart.
Oh.
Um, yeah, one of them is you have one first line. Wherever you find one line, go to that because that's where that person puts a lot of time. It's their one investigational foundational line. And for you, it's in order to get to the breakthrough, it's the recognition that the new thing that you're about to say, which is your freak nature, the thing that's
Mhm.
coming out that's mutative, right? Individual and new. Um, it can't be established until the resistance to the old stuff is eliminated. For that, you must have patience. So you're
Yeah.
watching, you're always watching and waiting, almost like an opportunist, but that's a studied practice. You're studying people that make you wait. And what is it that they're doing that are making you wait to break through with whatever your unique thing is? Your thing is the study of the people.
Yes.
Yeah, that's what foundationally this is because it's part of the channel of structuring. What would she like to do? She would like to structure the things that heal the people. Ultimately, that's the nine-centered form talking, healing the people and being for the people. Another super interesting aspect you have in your design is it looks like you have 5 different incarnation crosses in your design. I don't
Really?
Yeah, I don't see this very often, because I go through and try and find the polarities. Everyone's got
Okay.
a couple of polarities. The nodes are always in a polarity. The sun and earth are always in a polarity.
Hmm.
But usually it ends there, or very often it does. But then you have this other polarity that is 60 and 56. So that's the stimulating part of the law. The
Mm.
law is mutated business. I mean, we have to change things to get the law. And so this becomes your law. In other words, when I see these polarities, I read the right angle incarnation into it to help sort of expand more juice about what that really is. So part of the law, and this would be the 56 and the 60 part of it, that would make the being stimulating part as it relates to what is the nine-centered law. Well, it's communion, right? It's yeah, we're going to have to cooperate and get along and do all the various things. The law is very much about morals, right, wrong, and all that stuff. But yours first comes from a sense of breaking through a limitation to get to it, which is what gives you a fantastic, yummy story to tell about it. To stimulate and animate, and move your hands around and say a bunch of stuff and use that mental activity in your mind to animate the story and keep it flowing out. So that's a cross that's sitting there. It's not the whole cross. You don't have the rest of it. You would need gate 3 and I forgot what else. But so you don't have the whole 50, 3 and 50. So you don't have those, but it's still, I see the polarity and I apply the cross to it. You have the 4722. So that's rulership. So there's rulership in your way, except the sense making part of rulership because the 47's there and the 22 has the grace to listen. And then so here you are in a listening business. So you've got this thing, you don't even know you do it until you realize, oh, I'm good. I guess I'm good at this. Right? Is the client starts talking and suddenly you're listening
Hmm.
and you're gathering their intel. And you know plenty of providers that can't keep their mouths shut. You know what I mean? Right?
Yeah.
Plenty. They just, but suddenly you hop into listening. It's almost like a trance. It's almost like someone can put you there as like a type of tractor beam. You know,
Yeah.
hold hold Natalie in place while they're talking because you are investigating the thing that's going to bring you the breakthrough. This
Yes.
fifth line in your investigator nature that has the patience to wait and see that breakthrough will come and it'll be in sight soon enough. That's a foundational study that you figured out over time, that you're figuring out over time. And
Yes.
so the grace to listen is the empathy it takes to get to the stuff needed to listen so you can have the breakthrough. In fact, I would be willing to bet that half of your existence is really caught up with these amazing breakthroughs you keep having because your mind keeps saying, I realize this, I know, I get you,
All the time. All the time.
all the time. Have you ever wondered why that mind of I mean, you've been in design long, so you know why your mind doesn't shut off. Can you
No, it
explain that?
doesn't.
So your mind will never shut off. Hey, Natalie, you think too much. Hey, Natalie, you're stressing over that too much, you know. Hey, Natalie, you're going to get unibrow if you keep doing this for too long. Or things like of that nature. Um, this 43 is so aware that it wants to do the one thing that humanity needs as much as anything else, put it in order, structure it, say it in the energy that is I know, so that it can mutate the other, so that they can know because they didn't know before. And if they know because you told them I know, they're now mutated. They're different.
Hmm.
They now know something. So this is your impact on them. You know, that fifth line general in you that people look to do the thing, and that third line persistence that ultimately you realize the third line isn't about bumping into things as much as it is about figuring out the things that don't work and getting it right ultimately.
Yes.
Yeah, that third line is not this just dreaded pessimist that's doomed to, you will bump into it for the rest of your life. That's not the point. You get better and better at it,
Yeah.
obviously, and the fifth line gets a little paranoid and keeps you out of it more and more, right? That's healthy. And then you take all of that, and then it has a breakthrough, and you've got this open throat that just wants to say the thing. That's healthy for you to want that. What was unhealthy in your teenage years was you went too far with it. And you had a big fat mouth all over the place half the time and didn't know and then felt stupid and then ran away and then probably cried and then all the things we do when we're young that make us want to forget those times a little bit or try to
Right.
have take question to it or take issue with it, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's all this breakthrough stuff is just really important. But that becomes so 1, 2, 3 crosses, 4, the cross of the laws, and there was one other. Oh yeah, 51, 57.
Mm.
Penetration. We just came off of that last week when we were reading the the sky, this transits. So and it's part of a definition. So the 51 is the warrior in shock. And guess what? The 51 and the 25 are in harmony, a 5 and a 2.
Okay.
How all of your stuff is in such incredible harmony. Of course you channel. Of course, one day it would be called.
Yeah.
Right?
And it
The
does.
expansion of your heart. Yeah. And you've heard Ross speak long enough. The universal love affair is with ourself.
Hmm.
It's not out there in any kind of way. In fact, out there is technically boring to how much we love our own selves. It's fanciful. I mean, that might be my age showing up a little bit. I'm almost 60, but you
No,
know,
I tell people who are willing to hear this, that I am the most interesting person that I know.
oh, dude, I'm the greatest guy I know. Yeah, this is that heart ego talking. Yeah. How about this one? I love you, but I love me more.
Like,
Yeah.
well,
No, I'm
and
the
people
greatest
like,
person I know.
because
Yeah.
I spend a lot of my time alone, which I love. Like, everybody's at work or school or, and I'm doing my research, I'm writing things, I'm doing all kinds of stuff like that. And I do have coaching and BioField tunings and stuff that I do. But I spend a lot of the time alone because I'm researching and working. And I never, ever feel lonely.
Right.
I don't really
Why
know what
would you?
that feels like.
Well, you normally wouldn't because 64 and 47 are one of the more active life forces. It is
Mm.
constant. You know what the the head center is there to do you remember the keynote of the head center? It's there to translate existence.
Oh,
I mean, that's pretty esoteric, and not to mention that's a pretty big deal. You know, to
yeah.
translate, yeah, translate that into instead of translate existence, just call it its job to figure out what the hell.
Yeah.
You know, with what? With what, Pop? You know, with it, with all of it, all of it, including why. Why are we here? To
Yeah.
translate our existence. And that's a lot of pressure. And so as it comes down 64 to then to 47, 47 as an awareness center, it's constantly picking up the little film clips of what could have been. It's picking up the pieces and it's taking picture something that you would spin and out along the edges, everything would reorganize differently each time you spun it. Got a bunch
Mm.
of stuff inside, spin it, centrifugal force makes it have it's organized a certain way. And then shake it up, spin it again, does it again, like a magic 8 ball, sort of. That's what this is doing. It's taking thousands of clips of memory, right? Because this is going to be important. So the ajna center, is awareness, right? Three
Mhm.
awareness. They all have a frequency, right?
Yes.
Spleen's in the now, emotional is in the a wave over time. What's the frequency? Do you remember the frequency of the ajna center?
Um, no.
Over all of time.
Oh, is it?
Memory. I got to remember. It's
Oh,
memory.
okay.
It's like, oh, honey, that happened when you were 3. You should get over it now. Yep, over all of time. That type of
Mm.
thing. And it's supposed to do that. What it's not supposed to do is torture us because it does that. Right?
Yeah.
So you take 47 and it's unconscious and it shows up out of the blue. It's not up to you. It's up.
Mm.
That's the beautiful thing about what channels. So the channeling prime channeling force in your body, besides the shock and awe motor of ego to the basically into innocence, 25 is 64 with 47 unconscious, and that 47 unconscious because unconscious information shows up like as if it came out of a tunnel. You can't see where it came from. You don't know. And
Yeah.
just there it is. That's confusing. Why is this happening to me? As soon as you let it strike fear, all the awareness centers are laden with their fear. The fear of this one is the fear of futility. Futility, because you know so much, because the ego wants to do all these things, because you've got all these incarnation crosses in you and you're penetrating into the now, and you have one more, 6. You have 6 incarnation crosses going
Oh.
on here, 64, 63. So this is consciousness. Consciousness was always supposed to be awakened in you through the warrior spirit that goes through the oppressive act of allowing all of the universe to pressure it to translate it into a voice that says, I know, in an open way when recognized after she bumped into it before she got too paranoid to have to get out of Dodge. Yeah, sorry, I had to add all those in, but
No, that was beautiful.
that's you were always gonna channel this stuff. 21, the grace to listen. Why am I listening? Why am I in this tractor beam? I don't know, but it is sensitive and it has want and it wants to be close and it wants to be socially significant. It's the design of a social being and it's open. It's openness, straight up openness. So that's unconscious in you. And that unconsciousness, everywhere there's unconsciousness, is where the mind can't cloud it. The mind can only
Mm.
observe it. That's how you
Okay.
read the red stuff in your body graph. You read it as it's just as present as the black stuff. It is working away just as present as the personality. You can't have it though. It gives it. The personality we get. We can have it, right? I can see it. Gotta identify with that. Oh yeah, I get that. And the more you get it, the more you identify with it. It's easy. You could take a quiz and get a B plus or better every time. That's the black stuff. The red stuff, you take that quiz and I mean, multiple choice, you can hope to get a few of them right by luck, and that's it. Right? I mean, that's
Yeah.
that's what the red stuff does. So out of this openness for 22 that says and 22, I'm going to find this in one of your lines, I bet. Where is that 22? There it is, second line again.
Mm.
Second line again. You got a lot of second lines. And I'm going to speak to that in a moment too, because that was another thing that stood out. That was one day this heart of yours was going to open up. And I promise you it was a function of your deconditioning. And I promise you it was a function of that vibration of that freaking tuning fork. And it happened now. It didn't come on. It showed up. Is that true?
Yeah.
That's the definition of
Yeah.
creation. And what happened? Did the oppressed realizer suddenly realize something?
Mhm. In me, yes.
Immediately, right? I mean,
Yeah.
you just and the confusion making understander that becomes understanding ultimately through the act of going over and over again. That's why our mind never shuts off. It's a life force that never turns off. It's the primary channel of dreaming. 6447, this channel of abstraction. Um, Out of its unconsciousness suddenly comes this incredible release of the oppressiveness. Have you experienced it as oppressive? The mental pressure, anxiety,
Yeah.
uh,
Yeah.
oh, I can't shut it off. Sometimes you'd even shake your head and can't turn it off.
Yeah. For
You listen
years.
to music. Yeah, you listen to music, it goes away. Did you ever try that?
Yeah, there are times where if I need to be working, or if I need to be writing something, or typing stuff up, and I need my mind to shut up, I will put a song on repeat.
Repeat. Yeah.
I'll just repeat the whole I will repeat it for hours sometimes, and because
Yeah.
what happens is it quiets my mind, and then the song fades into the background, and then the real thoughts can come forward, and then I can focus and think.
That's just an amazing thing. Yeah, I would often do the same thing. What it is, it's very much, I forgot what that name of that movie was with Matthew Broderick. It was old, long ago, where they had to turn off Hal or the machine. They had to turn off a machine. And that
Yeah.
general guy was like, I'd piss on a spark plug if I thought it would work. And what did they end up doing it? They gave it a chess game or a checkers game that it can't win to keep it
Oh,
busy. Yeah.
yeah.
Make
And
yourself
yeah, I'll turn off fans. Like I will need sometimes I will need absolute silence, and sometimes I need so much silence that I'll put noise canceling headphones on.
right.
And the interesting thing that happens to that is because so if I go out camping and it's the middle of the night and I know that I live in Utah. If I go up into the woods, there are bears and mountain lions and moose, and
Coyotes.
like there are big animals out there that are
Right.
scary.
Right.
and,
Right.
and so my brain becomes on hyper fixation alert to listen to every single little sound. So I will put noise canceling headphones on, and it will like hyper fixate on any little tiny sound it can, and then I can think.
Oh my God. I love that. I should I should try that one day. I can't. Whatever's going on inside my ears as it relates to what I'm bringing in. Don't forget, this stuff is all on the emotional sensing side. This
Mm,
definition 6447. It's not on the logical side, but because you have both 64 and 63, this acts as linkage. They go between each other. The gate
mm,
of doubt is constantly figuring stuff out, and 64 is constantly pressuring the confusion to come to a realization. And you put those two things together, and so when 47 says, I know, it is all experienced, I know. It has a mutative pulse of I know, which is an empowering force, empowerment. And it's got, again, the shared collective doubt function, which comes to an understanding. Doubt is there to be a sometimes pressure that keeps understanding the next new thing, much like a realization. These two
mm.
things, they work symbiotically together. One is very much sensing and abstract, and one is logical and looking forward. And so the cross of consciousness says we're going to have progress looking forward as it relates to what we've learned from the past. And when we can see that clearly as ourselves, we are conscious, manifesting that. We manifest that as our conscious selves. So you've got all of that going on and then you come back to the unconscious gate in 43. You channel through that. Which one is 43 unconscious? Let me see here. Line 2.
Yeah.
That's the one that's dedication. So suddenly you're dedicated to your open heart because you just realized it, because the freak in 43 suddenly had its breakthrough insight. Whether it could explain it or not, it knew. Knowing empowers. Realization is fanciful and it's amazing, but it doesn't really come into work or into play until it knows.
Yeah.
Because again, realization is still being worked with. Oh, I realize this. Oh, I can realize a little bit more. Oh, let me add on to that. But when knowing clicks in, that's one thing. It's knowing. And it's powerful because that's in the individual circuitry. And because of that, it's designed to empower. Um, there's something else with this 43 that it's part of an opposition. When you have 4323, you don't have the 23, but it doesn't matter. It's part of a definition that shows up more in humanity than all the other channels.
Okay.
I'm not sure if you remember that, but it was because there's three channels that are in opposition on the wheel. It
I know
means,
3420 is one of them.
yep, 3420, got nothing in that stream, but you do have a 40 because 34, 40, 37 in the
Okay,
tribal.
4037 is the other one. Okay.
Yep. So those are the three. You have gates and two of them, but the 43 is the one I'm most looking at right now. And 43.2 says dedication. So unconsciously, as soon as you become dedicated to the moment, the breakthrough becomes predicated on back to unconscious 47. The realizations come out of a tunnel, and the realizations fuel I know and break through. And then in that moment when that happens, suddenly you're channeling your unconscious dedication. What does that look like in a nine-centered being? That's your love. So who doesn't channel their love in a way, right? So, but here with you, it's unconscious, so it's innocent. I mean, it's a recipe for the perfect Hallmark card, your innocent love, it's like it's what happened when we were teenagers and first held hands and things of this nature, which I'll never forget. Thank God for mind over all of time, you know. I don't want to forget. I love that stuff. But so I see so much focusing on this 47. I see how in a moment you would have come to what the nine-centered form is designed to do. Realize it loves itself. And
Mm.
it's badass. Oh, you got this 5125, this warrior channel of shock and all the gates of the ego defined. And they're all black except for one red thing. So I was curious if you find yourself being called into just leaping into the now. Do you suddenly just do when was the last reckless thing you did? Because it was exciting. Because of the excitement.
I do that all the time.
Okay, good, good. Have you figured out you're supposed to?
No, I just find it to be fun because it'll like be a random thing and I'll be like, well, let's try this. Let's
You're
go
right.
this way. Let's make this turn. I don't know.
Well, it's the perfect channel to have if you're going to be a 3-5 profile. I say all 3-5 profiles will pass a law in the next Congress mandating 5125 for all 3-5s. Just they can have fun with that. Um, that's too funny. Let's not do that. So what else was the thing on here? Then I remember seeing the consciousness. Oh yeah, you have 8 second lines in your body graph. So
Yeah.
we've just investigated. You have one first line. That means you're here to become a knower, and that first line was in this line of patience. You have so that's why that's a focus because there's only one of them. All this
Mm.
thing you've been talking, you realize you've been keynoting the language of a hermit.
Um, Not consciously aware of it,
Right.
but I have been becoming more
Well,
aware of all of
most of those
these.
truths are unconscious in you.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I just recently learned that or recently noticed that I have 8 second lines, and it's the most lines that I have in my
Yep.
chart. And
What's
because
that
more and
harmonized
more
with?
I've been hermiting, and the more I do that, like, I'm social, but also, like, I love the knowledge,
Right.
and I love diving into it, and I love, I've changed my business in such a way to where it supports that,
The
and
3 and the 5 have a great need to simply stand on one's principles. The 5th
mm,
line will march out into the alley when needed, and the rest of the time it won't, for its principles. The 3rd line will simply sustain at it. Sustain at because the 3rd line's job is to principally decide about what the 1st line has done and then either tear it down or not. So the 1st line's build foundations and the 3rd line's the end of that, lower trigram. Their job is to tear it down or not.
okay.
That's the anarchist part. That's why its role in expression with the other is anarchy. Um, so what was the point I was making before? Shit. What was darn, oops.
With
Um,
the hermit stuff, because you were
Big.
saying that I was expressing a lot of hermit energy.
So check this out. So your profile, you have 5 or 6 threes, 6 threes, you have 6 5s, looks like you have 8 2s.
Mhm.
Okay, so when you add all that, so almost all the gates are taken up with just those 3 gates, with those 3 lines. The 2 and the 5 resonate with each other. They harmonize with each other, I mean.
Mm.
Have you looked into much of the harmony and resonance of things?
It's been a minute.
Okay, well, just to harmonize is to be noticeable, so noticeable that it can't help but to feel good inside the body when it is doing its correct thing. What is the
I
one?
experienced that, but yes.
Most, because most of this is unconscious. So the two
Oh,
harmonizes with the five. This unconscious side, that channeling, I know there's pressure from this universe of ours. I know there's a direct connection because we're in an illusion that we're even separate in the first place. I get all that.
yeah.
But here in this earthly form, while we're here, pulled apart through the agency of this monopole, that only attracts, right? Um, through the agency of that monopole that only attracts, that pulling that happens with us pulls us into the channeling through the act, mostly first of the unconscious gates.
Okay.
It's just there. That's what it does. That is our divinity. So
Mm,
when in the past, much of that divinity truly did have to sort of come from something, and those people would be dumbstruck. No wonder they all thought that they were, you know, priests and prophets and all this stuff because it was that big a deal to them. Have you noticed? To us, it's great, but none of us are willing to claim prophet status over it because it seems like everybody can do certain stuff. And gee, isn't this great?
yeah.
It's so we're different about all of that. We don't care about those things the same as they did in the old seven-centered way. That was all for power. The nine-centered version of us is for communion, period. That's our first thing that the nine-centered being will be at home with. And it's our red gates that get us into the channeling that give us all these beautiful aha moments so that our personality can finally wake up and see, oh my God, there's someone else I'm traveling with. I mean,
Right?
that's what it's seeing, right? And it's
Yeah.
scary. Excuse me. And
That's
it's scary when it sees that if it doesn't know what it is,
mm,
Um, yeah, it was so funny what Moana was saying. She's like, "Oh my God, what was the thing?" And I was like, "Yeah, that's the beginning of when you start getting red, and then after a while, you start seeing, oh, that was this." So any of your red gates, and even this cross of the unexpected will bring channeling to you. The fact that the third lines bump into things, you're the channeler. You're the aspect of the Christ or God consciousness. You know, you are the living embodiment here on this planet, as am I.
yeah.
Um, Together, we become the power of now as we commune more and more. And so all of this power in here for you to do that. I've also noticed you've learned to you seem to have learned that your timing to speak.
Yes.
Was
Very
that
much.
harder?
Um, it was at first in learning that I have like the open throat and you need to wait. It's like wait to speak. I had a lot of wounding around that. I did go through a tuning session where I got my throat tuned, and ever since then, it's been different for me in the most beautiful of ways.
Of
And
course.
my voice became stronger because the wounding behind what was happening was not being seen and heard, was
Yep.
not being, let's see, speaking, but not being heard.
Mm.
And with the tuning that happened, it got reset back to factory settings. And all of a sudden I could sing, and not like sing like I did before, but whenever I would sing before, there would be this like glass ceiling where I wouldn't allow myself to like go higher with the notes. And all of a sudden, I immediately, when I came out of my session, I got in my car, and on the radio, Miley Cyrus was on and she was singing
Bam.
her Wrecking Ball. And I
Yep.
started belting it.
Right. Of course.
And when she would hit the higher notes, I started hitting them with her, and
Right.
I bawled
You were
because
just loving that.
the ceiling was gone. And from that, I started noticing that when I talked, people started actually listening to me. And so
Because you
the
waited.
wound, huh?
Because you waited.
Yeah. And so I didn't have to feel like I needed to chatter so much anymore because I knew that when I talked, I was being heard. So the wounding behind it was gone.
Have you noticed yet that we don't want any of that wounding? We don't even want to care. We
Yeah.
don't want to care one bit. Is that true? Have you, I mean, I'm speaking, don't forget, I have a 43 too. So when I speak, it sounds like I know, but I'm still usually asking as well.
So caring as in what way are you referring to?
We don't
Not
want to have
wanting to.
to give it so much second thought already. Who cares already? Yeah, it's there. Write it down. It's in the history books. I can look it up. Sometimes I'll remember it and have a bunch of feelings. In between all the rest of the 99% of the time, I don't want to care.
Yeah, there's a lot of that where I'm like, "Oh,
Good.
and now it's gone and I don't have to." I've
Right.
had the experience with it. It was an incredible, profound experience, and now I can actually start to live what it means to live without having that holding me back anymore.
Right. Holding you back and all of this stuff and the weight and the pressure and all the confusion that never solves itself because it can't.
Right.
And with this life force in you, that's the kind of confusion that would drive all kinds of things into you. It's like, oh, honey, I think you need to go see a specialist or talk to a talk doctor or get into therapy. You might have even heard some of these things in your life. Um,
Absolutely, I have.
yep. Okay. See, so that all makes sense. So it's intense. I see this awakening of your heart as something that would have been easy. You have 8-second lines making you a 2-5 profile in just by sheer force of numbers
Mm,
as it relates to your design. That's the Hermit General. And if you recall, I mean, the biggest keynote of the Hermit, besides the Hermit, is the natural that gets
right.
called.
Yes.
There's a bunch of other ones, the Democrat, the bigot, the one that's harmony for this, the shy one till they're bold, but you have both. So there you are attracting a mate and then sort of running away from them a little bit. Has that happened in your life?
Um, well, I've been married twice, so and divorced twice. So, in a sense, I guess it does, but,
Well, no,
uh
I'm thinking about just courtship wise. Not sure if you're interested because there's the shy in
oh,
you that hasn't gotten over the hump. And so the shy pulls in. I'm talking the second line when the third line shouldn't be all that shy. It's more like a kamikaze. Hey, let's
oh,
hit this thing, maybe. Try it, try. And
most
so,
most everyone I meet is a no, and then
right.
some. And
Yeah.
I'm like, but yes, and if there's any kind of interest, there's very much a, um, like,
Patience to wait.
leaning in and then like, I don't know.
Yes. The Marco Polo of the 2-5 or the 5-2. The
Yeah.
2 is shy, it's a hermit, doesn't know, it's gotta wait for someone to break through, and the 5th line is the Casanova and the femme fatale and the pretty one, and the, attractiveness as a medium of creativity and all of that, and it's seductive and conditioning or the conditioned, and with all of these things, it's the 5th line is what everyone wants to see in everyone. Do you
Mhm.
remember Norman Schwarzkopf, the general of that first Gulf War? You
No.
would have been just old enough, but he was the general. He was the archetype of a fifth line. He stormed in, got it done in 100 hours, got out, went back to his farm. Everyone talked about him afterwards, and he was the archetype of such a thing,
Wow.
just in story form. And he did get it done, and everyone looked to him and they projected on him. So you're always getting projected upon. You might have all these talents. You might have all these talents. I realize I'm not speaking to your third line profile. I'm just speaking to the mass of twos in your chart compared to its harmony of the five.
Okay.
Because that's such a strong pull when they're in harmony to each other. It's like they're in a type of lockstep. That's very powerful. It's just like two gates come together. They become a quantum more
Mm,
than what they were. This is the same thing. You got a harmony together and they become more than just what they are separately because they're now working synergistically in a way that harmonizes. The general in you knows damn well when to come out. And the
yeah.
calling in you that the second lines receive a calling because they second lines resonate to hope. They just resonate to hope. Third lines resonate to a desire to make it all happen. So
Okay.
you have this hope and desire that you're going to make it all happen, but it's really the general that attracts society and makes it all happen. You
Okay.
know, and the fifth line, so sometimes you're making it all happen, and even that would be a surprise to you. But still, the 2-5 on your left hand side that's there so much, that hermit has a very special quality. You're not a 2-4 profile, so it won't necessarily hit home like it does with me. But it's this fact that something comes and, like the innocence of a child, You are called because you have the hope. You're always called into where your hopes are.
Okay.
One energy attracts the other, and you have tons of hope. I hope this. I got hope. Oh no, worry. I hope that. It leads to a bunch of optimism when technically you should have pessimism. But you have your share of it. You have your share of it. Not gonna
I have
harm
my
you.
share, but it's mostly optimistic. And then sometimes, like, I know better than to
Right,
be optimistic about that particular thing. And so sometimes it'll come out and I'm like, oops.
right. Well, listen. Think of the times you've marshaled headlong into whatever the thing is, with nothing but hope.
Yeah.
Not stupidity. It's not like, hey, I'm going to marshal
No.
until I can breathe underwater now. No,
No, it's very interesting because I'll go through and I'll do things that are um nonsensical in a way, but there's because it's riding on that hope, but there's also this logic that comes in of like, look, I realize that this doesn't make a whole lot of sense, but we're gonna try this anyways.
we're gonna try this anyways, and it might do this, and this. Maybe I don't know. Consciousness will figure it out. I'm working on it. The
Yeah.
law is about to get laid. I'm working on it. Yeah, all of these things. Rulership must happen. And we're working on it. I must explain. I'm reading off these crosses. As we go through 'em.
Okay.
The unexpected shall happen because I will bump into it. Because even though my gates are in open centers, when I care, I must care deeply, and I can't stop caring deeply. And so
Right.
ultimately, that third line bumped into the right moment, and the right moment said, "It's time for my heart to open." And the warrior shocked into existence the very thing that the warrior always does, gate 51. It shocks the movement into innocence, gate 25. 51 and 25 are the very first allspark of a seed and an egg in a human gestation.
Mm,
That's a thing. Um, and so all of that ends up taking place, and then in the moment, the unconscious realization hits you like a ton of bricks, and suddenly you can explain it. And the channel of explanation that isn't there is acting like it is. And
hmm,
your heart beat three sizes that day. It was guaranteed to notice it. Um, you're guaranteed to notice it. And really, I would just end on this. Well, two things. This unexpected is for real. The things you desire lead you into an unexpected place of influence.
yes.
Oops, oopsie. That's you, just oopsie. So your husband has had to live with oopsie, and not only oopsie, but sometimes even though you don't have gate 46, it's a type of dumb luck. Oh my God, it worked out. You know, like I told you, you just need to scratch the ticket. The mortgage payment's there. Not saying you do that, but that kind of thing, unexpected. You know.
Yeah.
By the way, we never want to be scratching a ticket hoping for our mortgage payment to be there.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah.
Like,
So take all this shocking stuff, and the warrior wants to feel deeply too. Don't forget, it's melancholy of the warrior. Is there anything new under the sun? Give it to me. I'm due it. The warrior
mm,
spirit has a possessive spirit. I'm due it. It does come from the ego, after all. Even though it's individual, it's possessive. It's got its ego possession going on, and I'm due it. I hope it gets here. I know that'll get here because I just have hope. You know what I mean? And whatever I'm pessimistic at, my brain will figure out because I'm constantly thinking, oh my God, I realize. And then whatever that tuning fork moment was, I already forget it now. You woke up to
yeah.
your open heart and recognized what human design tells us we have to recognize. You love yourself, you follow your strategy and authority, be yourself, and everything else falls into line. And now you're filled with the great power of it to the tune of goosebumps all the time when you think about it. So
Yeah.
is that true, by the way? Goosebumps?
Absolutely. 100%. Yeah.
Yeah, figured.
Yeah.
So you put all this together, and no wonder you're doing exactly whatever it is that you're doing. I'm just glad you ran into that thing
Me
and
too.
and that heart opening moment, because that was huge. And I'm
Yeah.
glad you're reading for people. And is there anything you want to ask me? Because I really just wanted to get to that. I wanted to get to this 47. I'm looking at your chart and I'm like, oh, there is stuff I can show her. We need to see this,
That was
so
beautiful. You showed me so much.
I lost track of what I showed you, but I'm glad. Make
That's
sure you
okay.
watch it over again.
And just um the channeling and being able to see the channeling and the heart opening and all of the stuff that like I'm was destined to find all of it,
Indeed.
was is very reassuring and very comforting. And
You're
because there's
natural at it.
sometimes where I'm like, I know this sounds crazy, but I am not crazy.
That's the
Like,
knower. That's the knower. And the second lines on your side, they get called into that thing. That's the channeling. And the whole seven-centered version of giving all of our power away. Not that it's a bad thing, but giving it away to God as a practical mechanic. It's like, oh, that's just true to what we really are now. No, we're an aspect of that. We don't have to give it away to us. We're channeling it right here. I got the
exactly,
instrument right here. In fact, I got
exactly.
9 instruments according to you because you figured that out. You know what I mean? And more. Let's give each channel an instrument, each gate, and each color. You know what I mean? They all get one.
Yeah.
We'll run out soon, but we'll make them up. But you know what I'm saying, right? So
They all have a different tone to them.
yeah, they do. They all do. I love that recognition of sound as well. I just remembered you had mentioned that before. By the way, tone does bass talks to tone.
Oh, bass
Tone,
talks to tone.
yeah,
Okay.
bass does talk to tone. Tone talks to color. Color becomes the go-between, obviously, but we can't the correctness of what you were saying, you were totally correct because we just don't have access to what bass is doing. And you have no proof that you've got the right bass until you've lived at it for so long that you just figure by default that's probably the one. Because there's no way you could have that accurate a time, probably, you know. Um, but tone and color are easy to get to once you look at them enough, you know,
Mm,
and so forth. But that all that stuff there is amazing. But I forgot what I was saying before.
that's
I
okay.
gotta stop. Can I stop talking? You talk.
Okay.
I'm done. I've used
Well,
up my
I was
words.
gonna say, yeah, Danny, you can take it easy.
You
You
see that? It's starting to happen. I'm like, I'm such, what do I say?
I'm like, I got you, I got you. This is
Like,
why there's a three of us, so we can do
thank
this.
you, Moana.
well, well,
Go
Danny,
ahead.
what you were saying about my with the throat and what I've learned of being the listener is I get sucked into being the listener and being patient with that because there will come the pieces of, oh, that's
The
that's the
thing.
wound, or that's the thing. And
Yep.
it'll come through. And so um there's almost a pressure to not speak now
Right.
inside of me, um,
Wow. I can
instead
see
of
that.
to speak,
Right.
which is
That'll balance itself out. I can totally see that, though. I can totally. I mean, we never even got to the open centers. They're always going to pull a head trip on us. We can never forget those open centers are screaming those not self voices even when we wake up because they've been doing it for so long. You know, so it's all
yeah.
good. It's just a little. It's like
I was
the
gonna say,
road in the background.
Danny, you like smashed that reading out of
Was
the
it
park.
good?
Right? It
I
was
was
amazing.
like, Natalie is like, if her jaw's not on the floor, like I would be confused. Like I was like,
You know what? I need to breathe a little bit more and give people
what
a moment to
that was
reflect. They're like
like.
saying stuff.
I was like the kids say that was fire.
Yeah.
Yes. That reading was, I don't know if you felt the same, Natalie. It's not even my chart. And I was like, yes, Danny,
Yeah.
keep doing that.
Got all these wicked interesting things in your chart, Natalie. It's just so
Thank
cool.
you.
It was
Pull it
so good. So
apart.
go, Danny, go take a break while I
Okay,
close out the show. Hold on, let me
I'll be
wake you
back.
up. All right. Anyhow, wow, that was such a treat. I'm just like,
It was.
you're a complete like nerd coming to life with HD when you're like getting off on other people's readings. You're just like, yes, so good. Tell me more. That's how I found Danny, by the way. He was doing a reading for my one of my guilty pleasures is celebrity gossip. It was Meghan and Harry.
Oh.
And I was like, where's the popcorn? This is so juicy. Yeah. And he corroborated things that
Ooh.
was in Harry's memoir because he did the reading well before the memoir ever came out. And then I
Really?
listened to the memoir and I was like,
He knew
how
it the
did
whole
he know
time.
this? No, it was several things. It wasn't even like one thing. It was like several things. And I'm like, what? Okay. So now we have a show together because I'm like, no, no, no. It's
Amazing.
ridiculous that you're not more known. Like, we need to fix that. People need to know you. So here we are. This is why you're on our show.
Thank you.
Oh, so I'm glad that you had fun doing the thing. Literally me, yeah. See, Chris, you know. So I was gonna say this is just such a treat. Each week I'm like, you never know, right? What kind of guest is gonna come on, like what kind of energy they're gonna give you, and like how the rapport is gonna be. But with you, I can say, Natalie, that was like an absolute delight. Like I was
Thank you.
having fun the entirety of you being on the show. I don't know if you felt the same, but I felt that, and I was like, this is
Yes.
so nice. So I am throwing all of Natalie's stuff. What is having? I'm like putting too much in. Into the chat. So please, everyone, go check it out. Natalie is going to tune you up. If you need a slogan, that could be your slogan.
Um, yes. My slogan with that is living the tuned up life.
See? Oh my God. It's like I somehow caught that it had something to do with that. So yes,
Mhm.
very excited to one day do a tuning thing with you and seeing what kind of magical things happen. Oh my gosh.
That would be amazing.
Yeah. So thank you. Again, it was an honor to have you on the
Oh,
show.
it was an
It was
honor
an
to be here.
Thank you. It was just like an absolute magical episode. I say this every week, but no, like seriously, this was magical. I loved it. So thank you again. Thank you, viewers, for tuning in live. Thank you, replay watchers. And again, if you are like, this is amazing stuff, go share it with your friends. Go share it with your friends. Tell them to come watch. Give us a follow. If you're really like, this is life changing stuff, go subscribe to our coffee page and support the channel. And yes, we will be back next week with another amazing special guest. So until then, we're going to bid you all adieu. Natalie, any closing words?
Ooh, thank you for having me. This has been such a delight for me as well. So I hope that everyone feels nice and grounded now and, you know, and have a great evening.
Amazing. So take care, everyone. Until we see you all next week. Adieu, adieu, adieu. Bye bye.
Bye.